Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into a velvet-draped bedroom lit only by the flicker of tallow candles, the air thick with lavender, rosewater, and just a hint of suspicious superstition. It's the Renaissance, and everything in your chamber, from the folds in your linens to the direction your bed faces, might determine whether your dreams are blessed, your romance blossoms, or your favorite socks mysteriously disappear. You're in for a story stitched with strange rituals, gentle absurdities, and softly rustling bedsheets that seem to whisper advice in the dark. We'll explore the scented charms, pillowcase spells, and the low-key panic around accidentally angering the moon. It's all absolutely, delightfully ridiculous, and somehow still feels a bit like coming home. But fair warning, if you ever find yourself standing barefoot in a salt circle trying to fold a love letter with one hand and bless your underpants with the other, you probably won't survive this timeline's romantic etiquette without help. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know, where are you watching from, and what time is it for you? Share in the comments. You're never too far from someone else with a candle and a curious superstition. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing barefoot on cool stone floors, your feet chilled but awake. A fire crackles gently behind you, casting flickering shadows across carved panels. You're not royalty, just comfortably wedged into the middle class of a small but optimistic Italian city-state. The walls are hung with faded tapestries featuring vaguely threatening unicorns. Somewhere, a lute is being tuned far too confidently. Tonight's ritual begins, as it always does, with the bedpost. Your fingers, slightly sticky with rosewater and a dab of honey, trace a small circle onto the wood. Not a large one, just enough for luck to know where to settle. The scent rises faintly, sweeter than practical. The logic behind it, passed down by several aunts of differing levels of credibility, is that rosewater blesses the dreamer and the marriage bed, while honey discourages wandering thoughts, or wandering spouses. Historians still argue whether this tradition had any basis in spiritual belief, or if it was simply an excuse to make the bedroom smell marginally better than the nearby stables. Either way, you're diligent about it now. 3 circles on the left post, 2 on the right. Why that arrangement? No one knows. Someone tried 5 on each once, and had 3 nights of toe cramps and an inexplicable urge to insult their in-laws. You sit on the edge of the mattress, which is technically stuffed with goose feathers but occasionally crunches suspiciously. You suspect it also contains a small collection of pine cones and possibly the dreams of a disgruntled jester. From under your side of the bed, you retrieve a small pouch tied with an ivory ribbon, fraying now, and patched with wax where someone dropped it into a candle last winter. This is your bedpost charm. You open the drawstring slowly, careful not to spill the contents: dried rosemary, a pressed violet, 3 fennel seeds, and a single green glass bead. None of these items are valuable. But they are yours, assembled during a rather emotional spring and blessed by Tilva the Sow Woman, who you suspect is only half joking when she calls herself mistress of herbal portents. You tuck the charm pouch into a carved niche in the bedpost, and whisper the same little rhyme you've repeated for years. May the dreams be long, the socks stay dry, and no shadows climb in from the sky. Is it silly? Of course. Does it work? You've never had a cursed spoon appear in the room uninvited, so, probably. Outside, a breeze knocks gently at the shuttered windows. Your partner stirs, already half-draped across the bed, one hand outstretched as if mid-negotiation with the dream merchant. You tuck a blanket around their shoulders and straighten the fold of your own pillow. Renaissance superstition says you should never sleep with a corner of your pillowcase untucked. Untucked corners let in wayward spirits, or wind, or opinions, depending on who's telling the story. There's also a belief that if your partner turns away from you and sleep 3 nights in a row, it's a sign they've been dreaming of another. But you're not worried. Last night, they tried to spoon the firewood basket. Still, just to be cautious, you recite the small comfort charm embroidered into the hem of your bed linens. Body turned, mind stayed. Heart wrapped tight. Return to me with dawn's first light. It's not terribly poetic, but the rhythm feels calming in your mouth, like the verbal equivalent of tucking in your own brain. Your chamber is dim now. The fire dwindles. The scent of rosewater lingers like a memory that won't stop offering you snacks. You lie back. The mattress greets you with its usual uneven sigh. And for just a moment, you think you hear something beneath the bed muttering, nothing ominous, just a vague complaint about being ignored. You whisper an apology to whatever lies down there. Probably a lost slipper. Possibly a romantic ghost with boundary issues. As your eyes begin to close, your hand rests lightly on the bedpost charm. A small reassurance. A quiet, ridiculous promise. That whatever the world brings tomorrow, political unrest, neighborly feuds, or the return of that one overly romantic goose, you'll face it from a bed that smells like roses and superstition, and that is absolutely, definitely yours. And really, what more could anyone ask? You awaken slowly, not quite sure what time it is, but aware of one crucial fact: your mattress has developed a new lump. An ambitious lump. Possibly with its own personality and thoughts on municipal cheese regulations. You shift slightly. The lump shifts back. Mutual respect is achieved. The room is dim, the shutters barely letting in the early hush of morning, and the fire's gone out, leaving only a hint of ash and last night's rosemary in the air. Somewhere outside, a pigeon makes a deeply personal noise, possibly judgmental. And beneath your mattress, though you'd never admit it aloud, you know there are cloves of garlic. 3 to be exact. Fresh ones. Not the crumbling talismans some use. These were smuggled from the kitchen when no one was looking, wrapped in muslin, and slipped carefully between the linen tick and the support slats last month during the feast of mildly suggestive moons. Why? Well, the garlic is there to protect you from wandering spirits. But more importantly, though no one ever says this out loud, it's there to keep your marriage unhexed. You may love each other dearly, but love can't always ward off curses, errant dreams, or the occasional ill-timed flirtation with a passing lute player. You roll over, mindful not to squish the protective cloves. Historians still argue whether this practice began in Sicily, the Low Countries, or as a panicked kitchen mistake that spiraled out of control. One theory holds that during a particularly spicy outbreak of romantic misfortune in a Florentine boarding house, the matrons simply began assigning garlic-stuffed mattresses and declared everyone spiritually quarantined. The resulting drop in elopements and poetic duels was considered proof of success. The garlic tradition stuck. Today, of course, it's considered old-fashioned. Young couples now prefer sage bundles or love-affirming bath rituals with ethically sourced lilacs. But you're garlic to your core. There's something comforting in the smell. Something grounding about knowing a root vegetable is doing spiritual heavy lifting beneath your spine. You rise, stretch, and pat the mattress gently in thanks. Still with us? You murmur to the cloves. They do not answer. You're pretty sure that's a good sign. After dressing, today in a linen tunic with a neckline politely unsure of its own purpose, you shuffle to the hearth and relight the fire. It takes 2 tries and 1 polite curse, but the warmth returns. You place a small copper pot of water to heat, toss in a pinch of rose hips, and drop a piece of honeycomb in after, just because. As you wait for the brew to steam, you notice your partner is still asleep. Face smushed into their pillow, arm dangling off the edge like they've given up on gravity altogether. You reach down and slide their pillowcase corner back into place. Tidy corners, tidy affections. It's silly, but you do it every morning. One of those secret rituals you never talk about, like stirring tea clockwise only on even days or never humming lullabies during thunderstorms. The garlic stays where it is. You don't move it. You don't discuss it. But each month, on the 3rd Sunday, you both silently replace the cloves. No ceremony. No jokes. Just the quiet understanding that love, like garlic, thrives in layers. At the table, you sip your tea and glance toward the foot of the bed, where an old embroidered cloth lies draped over the mattress end. Beneath it, folded carefully, is the infamous garlic ledger. You hadn't meant to start a ledger. It began as a way to track mattress replacements. How many cloves, which month, any unusually fragrant dreams, but over time it turned into something else. A journal of your oddest sleep-related moments. Dreamt I was married to a pair. Heard whispering near my knee. It might have been the dog. Garlic clove found on floor. Maybe rogue or disillusioned. You open the ledger to a random page. Midwinter 2 years ago. Slept like a saint. Woke up with garlic braid on forehead. Felt chosen. You snort into your cup. The ledger's pages are soft now, handled often, flecked with honey drops and pressed petals. Some entries are serious, documenting sleeplessness, shared prayers, or lingering dreams of past lovers. But most are wonderfully absurd. There's even a crude drawing of a clove with tiny arms and a crown labeled His Majesty, Sir Bulb. That was a Tilsey edition. Of course it was. You close the book gently. And realize there's one thing missing. You head to the hearth, fetch a new clove from the kitchen pouch, and return to the bedside. Carefully, reverently you add the fourth clove. Why 4? No particular reason. Except that today feels like a 4-clove day. 1 for protection. 1 for love. 1 for garlic's sake. And 1, just in case. You tuck it in carefully, smooth the sheet, and return to your tea. Outside, the pigeons have begun their daily drama, arguing about whatever pigeons find meaningful. Inside, your bed smells faintly of linen, ash, and an herbal pungency that is, if you'll forgive the term, distinctly matrimonial. You feel safe. You feel known. And most importantly, you feel slightly ridiculous. Which, as any well-balanced household will tell you, is the secret to lasting romance. Because at the end of the day, or the beginning of it, nothing says I love you quite like secretly hiding garlic under someone's mattress for their own good. It's messy. It's mushy. It's mildly fragrant. And it's yours. Later that evening, as candlelight flickers against the walls and your second favorite robe slips just right across your shoulders, the first favorite having lost the tie in an unfortunate chutney incident, you prepare for bed once again. The fire is lower now, soft enough to cast only suggestion rather than illumination, and your room feels tucked in like a page turned gently at dusk. You pull back the coverlet, a patchwork of reds and soft ochres stitched together by 3 generations and one extremely opinionated cat, and pause. There it is. Nestled atop your linen pillow, carefully placed and definitely not by accident, a moon-shaped sachet. You recognize it immediately. Stuffed with lavender, dried marjoram, and, if your nose is correct, a single thread of chamomile. It's tied with pale ribbon and stitched along the edges with what you can only describe as respectfully chaotic embroidery. Someone's done their best. You smile. This is the pillowcase moon charm, a tradition passed around old merchant families and particularly poetic aunties. According to superstition, such sachets, when placed on the bed during a waxing gibbous moon, could shape dreams, guide romantic clarity, and gently dispel emotional mildew, whatever that means. Historians still argue whether these charms were actual attempts at dream therapy or just a very niche excuse to show off someone's sachet-making skills. Regardless, it works, for your household at least. The rule, as you know it, is simple. If someone places a moon sachet on your pillow, it means they hope your dreams go where your words cannot. A kind of gentle nudge. Not a demand. Just a wish. You pick it up and inhale, floral and earthy, with a faint note of mystery. Then you place it carefully back on the pillow and straighten the corner, because tucked corners matter. Climbing into bed, you let your head sink into the soft welcome of old linen and crinkling moon herbs. The sachet fits neatly just under your jaw. It's strange, but comforting. Like being gently side-eyed by a romantic ghost with very specific opinions on dream architecture. The room is silent except for the occasional pop of firewood and the tiny exhale of a candle resigning itself to waxy doom. Beside you, your partner rolls over, half awake, and mutters, "You got the sachet tonight, huh?" You nod. Smells like a moon-kissed salad. Perfect. They fall back asleep instantly. You're not sure which dream path the sachet will open. Love? Memory? Perhaps one of those slow-floating dreams where everyone is an animal but still has excellent taste in furniture. You tried to stay awake a little longer, just to listen, to the crackle, to the rustle of the coverlet, to the faint hum of night through the shutter slats. This room has held so many nights like this. Quiet. Slightly scented. Equal parts ridiculous and sacred. You remember when you first encountered a moon sachet, years ago at your cousin's wedding. The bride, who was 4 cups of wine past mystical at that point, staggered into the bedroom and began stuffing everyone's sleeves with herbs while reciting half-remembered rhymes. She shoved a moon sachet into your tunic and slurred, "Dream gentle, love better, and don't marry anyone who flinches at basil." Good advice, as it turns out. Back then you'd laughed. Now, you cherish the ritual, the silliness, the softness. Because sometimes, it's the small absurdities that hold the most sincere weight. You shift slightly, repositioning the sachet, and begin whispering the rhyme quietly, more out of habit than belief. Let lavender lead where logic would stray. Let marjoram soften what words couldn't say. By chamomile charm and moon's gentle sway, bring comfort to hearts that have wandered away. You know it by heart. Even if the sachet's magic is more metaphor than manifestation, the rhyme still settles something in you. There's debate among scholars, surprise, surprise, about whether the moon sachet was originally meant for lovers or for lonely sleepers hoping for company in the dreamscape. Some suggest it was a modest spell to connect 2 people dreaming under the same sky, while others say it was simply to repel the nightmares caused by ill-cooked eel. You find both interpretations comforting. The bed feels warmer now. Heavier, but in a nice way. You let one arm drift across to where your partner sleeps, fingers brushing theirs gently. They stir, briefly press back, then return to their slow breathing rhythm. You smile again. The sachet's doing its work. Whether through superstition, scent, or sheer sentimental sorcery, the moon sachet has cast its quiet spell. As your eyes drift closed, you allow your thoughts to wander, not aimlessly, but with a kind of velvet logic. You think about the other sachets in the drawer, each one a little different, one stitched with stars for guidance, one with cinnamon bark for warmth, one with a clove of nutmeg that nobody remembers adding. There's even a sachet stuffed entirely with scrap notes, tiny romantic compliments written in haste, folded down to fit in velvet. It smells like paper and longing. You saved that one for anniversaries and emotional Tuesdays. But tonight, it's the moon sachet. Simple. Honest. Smelling faintly of herbs and hope. You breathe deeply, feeling the rhythm of your thoughts begin to soften, edges blurring like ink soaking into parchment. The sachet crinkles slightly as you shift. It makes no demands. Offers no predictions. It's just there. A gentle reminder that someone wanted your dreams to feel safe. And they do. Utterly. You think, just before slipping into sleep, that this may be the most ridiculous and most romantic thing anyone has ever done for you. And that, frankly, you'll take it. You wake before the sun, just barely. The light hasn't yet made its case to the shutters, but you can sense it gathering somewhere off stage, stretching and muttering about dew. The world outside your bedroom is still sleeping, but your eyes blink open, adjusting to the velvet dark. The sachet has slipped under your collarbone. You smile and slide it back to the pillow, offering a sleepy apology to the moon spirit, in case displacement is considered disrespectful. You sit up slowly, rubbing the creases out of your neck and the night out of your shoulders. The air is cool and smells of last night's dreams, lavender, and the ghost of whatever herb your partner accidentally stepped on before bed. You're betting it was thyme. They always mistake it for moss. After a brief stretch, you pad across the wooden floorboards, barefoot and slightly wobbly, to your wardrobe. From the bottom drawer, where all the forgotten bedtime accessories live, you pull out something sacred, silly, and not to be underestimated. The silent spoon. To the untrained eye, it's just a carved wooden spoon, nothing special. The handle is smooth from years of handling, and a faint crescent moon has been etched into its back. There's a notch at the tip, purely ornamental, unless one is measuring a pinch of superstition. You carry it reverently back to bed. This, according to tradition whispered mostly by soap makers and suspicious ants, is not a cooking spoon. It's a packed spoon. You and your beloved received it on your second midsummer together from old Marta, a woman who claimed to be 117 and could identify lies by the shape of a person's elbow. She handed it to you with a wink and muttered, "Never speak with it. Only sleep with it." Naturally, you were alarmed. Turns out, the silent spoon is a modest but persistent superstition. When two people share a bed and both touch the spoon before sleep, they're said to dream in sync, which sounds terribly romantic until you realize it sometimes means you both dream about arguing with the same goose. Still, you've followed the spoon ritual now for years. Not every night, just on the ones when tension buzzes in the room like static. Or when dreams feel elusive, and love could use a nudge. You crawl back under the covers, place the spoon between you and your partner, and let your fingers rest against its warm wood. They stir, blink once, then smile with eyes still closed. You brought the spoon. Felt like a spoon night. Their hand joins yours on the handle. No words. That's part of the pact. Just touch and silence and shared intention. You lie like that for a few minutes, the spoon quietly mediating whatever tiny misunderstandings the day may have tried to sneak in between you. Historians still argue whether the spoon ritual had roots in ancient Roman love charms, or if it was simply a medieval way to make sure you didn't sleep too far apart during cold winters. The spoon, after all, can't be ignored when you roll onto it by mistake. Still, the symbol stuck. There are even records of carved spoons being slipped under pillows during marriage negotiations. A kind of early couples therapy, made entirely of wood and wishful thinking. Yours is humble. No jewels. No elaborate engravings. Just a moon, a notch, and about 8 years of laughter, spilled tea, and middle-of-the-night shifting. You shift now, curling onto your side and adjusting the blanket just so. The spoon presses gently against your palm. You remember one winter years ago, when both of you were so ill you barely moved for 3 days. The silent spoon was there then too, resting in a dish of lemon water beside the bed, as if it could stir the illness out. It didn't, of course. But the moment you both recovered, you cleaned it, dried it, and placed it under your pillows for a week straight. Superstition doesn't cure, but it does comfort. And right now, that's all you need. You nestle deeper into the blankets. Your partner is snoring faintly, not obnoxiously, just enough to suggest they're deeply committed to the act of rest. The spoon rests peacefully between you, as it has so many nights before. You let your mind wander. To the couples across the city who also hold charms and tokens in their beds, the ones who tie ribbons to bedposts, who whisper blessings to corners, who tuck sage beneath their mattresses or place a single rose petal in their shoes for luck. So many quiet rituals. So many sleepy promises whispered between linen and moonlight. You think again about old Marta and her elbow-reading ways. You remember how she cackled when you tried to thank her for the spoon. "Don't thank me," she said, "thank each other." That's the part that matters. You didn't understand it fully then. You might not even now. But the act of touching the spoon before bed, of honoring the absurdity, the tenderness, the trust of it, feels like a thank you. You and your beloved still argue sometimes. About laundry, or whose turn it is to barter with the goat merchant. But never about the spoon. It is neutral. It is sacred. It is always slightly warmer than it should be. The spoon has heard dreams. Absorbed sighs. Witnessed sleep-talking monologues about architecture, soup, and the emotional betrayal of soft pears. It holds no judgment. Just smooth, worn wood. You close your eyes, your fingers resting lightly against it. And somewhere, between breath and thought, between linen folds and half-formed dreams, you feel that slow, quiet magic doing its work. No fireworks. No dramatic declarations. Just a spoon. Just sleep. And just enough belief to make both feel like love. You don't dream of anything in particular that night, just sensations. The warmth of linen, the gentle press of your partner's shoulder against yours, the spoon nestled like a sleepy diplomat at the border between your shifting limbs. Everything is softness. Murmurs. The kind of half-sleep where you can't tell if the whisper you heard came from your partner or from the mattress remembering something sentimental. When you wake, it's to the sound of bells. Not church bells, thankfully. They strike a different note entirely. These are small, inconsistent, and coming from outside. Garden bells. Hung from trees, some of them no bigger than thimbles, meant to chime with the breeze and alert you to any wandering spirits, mischievous goats, or overenthusiastic suitors. They've been clinking all morning. You stretch. The spoon is still there, cool now. You place it gently back in the drawer beside the sachets and a small, folded napkin that you're 75% sure is enchanted to hide crumbs from judgmental guests. Then it's breakfast. Now, a Renaissance breakfast is not what you might call generous. If you're lucky, there's bread, a smear of soft cheese, and a boiled egg that may or may not be smug about its temperature. You settle for fruit and sweetened herbs and water, because you're feeling virtuous, or because the egg has hidden again. Historians still argue whether this minimalism was a matter of custom, scarcity, or simply that breakfast was considered too flirtatious for elaborate cooking. As you sip, you reach for the day's favorite reading, the Chamber Almanac, a handwritten guide gifted by your great-aunt, who once fell in love with a beekeeper and never emotionally recovered. The almanac is not an official publication. It's more of a collection of seasonal bedroom wisdom and personal notes, updated over generations. Your favorite entry reads, "Avoid washing bedsheets on a waning moon." It unravels shared patience. Today's entry suggests that it is a fine morning to burn a braid of rosemary over your wash basin, lest your reflections start delivering opinions you haven't asked for. You consider it briefly, then decide your reflection has earned the right to be a little smug after last week's impeccable hair day. After breakfast, you head to the bed. Not to lie down, though tempting, but to begin the next bit of tradition. Bed brushing. It's exactly what it sounds like. You retrieve a long-handled broom made of woven flax and duck feathers, reserved exclusively for clearing out the metaphysical buildup around the sleep space. You sweep beneath the bed, twice clockwise, once counter, then over the headboard, murmuring the old rhyme out of sheer muscle memory. Sweep the sighs, the moans, the thrice-told lies. Keep only laughter, dreams, and sleepy eyes. Is it necessary? Almost certainly not. Do you still do it every week? Obviously. The brushing is less about superstition now, more about rhythm. A small ceremony of your own making. The calming repetition of clearing space and reminding the bed, and yourself, that rest is sacred. Sometimes, as you sweep, you imagine all the stories the bed must have absorbed. The whispered arguments, the reconciliations, the nights one of you pretended to be asleep to avoid discussing curtain finances. All of it brushed softly into the corners where secrets go to nap. As you finish, you catch sight of the bed's underside, and yes, there's a small white envelope wedged between a support beam and the floor. It's addressed to the dreaming one, sealed with wax, and smells vaguely of mint. You smile. Your partner has left you a sleep note. A quiet tradition between the two of you, never discussed, always obeyed. Notes are written when something can't be said aloud, not because it's painful or secret, but because sometimes, bedtime is the best place for half-serious magic. The notes often contain a question, a dream description, or a small request for shared silence. You open it carefully. The note reads, "If we each dream the same image tonight, let it be the pear tree in bloom. If we don't, then we try again tomorrow. P.S. You snored like a joyful goat last night. I adored it. You feel warm, loved, and only mildly goat-like." You fold the note and place it beside the silent spoon, where all the best things go. Later that evening, as the fire is stoked and the shadows begin to settle into their usual nooks, you prepare the bed with a little more care than usual. You fluff the pillows, brush the coverlet with the back of your hand, and spritz the air with a very mild rosewater mist that you swear was blessed by someone who once shook hands with a traveling apothecary. You place a small bloom, a pear blossom from the garden, in a dish on the nightstand. The symbolism is subtle. You've only done this twice before. Both times were good nights. Your partner notices. They smile but say nothing. Instead, they hand you a sachet. Not a moon one this time. This one is stitched with tiny vines and filled with something sharp, warm, and just a little bit reckless. You sniff. Cinnamon. A sliver of dried ginger. And a note tucked inside that reads, "For bold dreaming." You raise an eyebrow. They wink, stretch, and crawl under the covers. You follow, sliding the sachet under the pillow and tapping the headboard twice. Another superstition neither of you understands, but both continue with devoted inconsistency. The lights dim. The fire settles. And the pear blossom leans, ever so slightly, toward the candlelight. You rest your head and wait. For dreams. For the shape of a tree in bloom. For whatever nonsense tomorrow brings. But mostly, for the little rituals that turn a bed into a sanctuary. You wake to a faint tickle on your cheek, either a strand of hair or the deeply affectionate caress of a dust mote with delusions of grandeur. The room is quiet, save for the fire giving one final sigh, and the tiny, telltale chirp of a bird that always arrives too early and leaves before anyone can confirm if it's real or just an auditory hallucination shared by romantics. The pear blossom has wilted slightly in the dish, curling in on itself like a secret that's been kept too long. You reach for it, press it gently between the pages of the chamber almanac, and make a small note beside today's entry, "Dreamt of trees." Unsure if pear still counts. There's a certain confidence required to live with this much softness. Not everyone can maintain a household that includes dream tracking, spoon diplomacy, and seasonal sachets without slipping into parody. But you do. Because you've learned that comfort, true, ridiculous, generous comfort, is often the most subversive kind of wisdom. This morning's ritual is one of the oldest in the book. Literally. The Book of Bedward Customs, a soft-bound compendium written by a retired librarian priest with suspiciously elegant penmanship, includes a chapter on the custom of sock binding. Now, sock binding is not what it sounds like. No one is tying anyone up, not unless the mood really calls for it and the socks are particularly spirited. Instead, it's a quiet little ritual in which one person ties a soft ribbon around the foot of the other's stocking before bed, typically on a Thursday. The ribbon is said to bind loyalty, attract warm dreams, and prevent nighttime foot-related quarrels, which, according to the book, were once the leading cause of marital discord in Saxony. Historians still argue whether this practice had any actual cultural reach or whether it was invented by a particularly dramatic tailor who wanted to sell more ribbon. Either way, it has persisted. You reach into the drawer and pull out a length of faded velvet, dyed blue, fraying at the edges, but still soft as anything you've ever owned. It's your ribbon. It was your mother's, too, and her mother's before that. All of them gave it new knots, new associations, new bedtime giggles. This morning, while your partner feigns sleep with the sincerity of a possum pretending not to be interested in snacks, you slide to the foot of the bed and begin the ritual. Gently you take their foot, already clad in a wool stocking far too heavy for the season, and loop the ribbon once around the ankle. Not tight. Just enough to be noticed. Then, in your sleepiest whisper, you say the rhyme. Bind the dream, not the limb. Keep the cold away and the kindness in. The sock twitches. Your partner murmurs something about marmalade and rolls over, foot still dutifully adorned. Success. You perform the same ritual on yourself, though slightly more awkwardly, given the angles involved, and then settle back into bed, foot to foot, ribboned and radiant. It's strange, you think, how many of these rituals began not from belief, but from affection. A gesture here, a repeated phrase there, and suddenly the whole room feels more alive. More intentional. Last winter, you remember, there was a ribbon drought. Not metaphorical, a literal shortage caused by a shipment mishap and a weasel incident. You were forced to use twine. Twine. Your partner tried to pretend it was charming, but twine leaves marks. That was a cold-footed week, indeed. The ribbons came back, eventually. They always do. They live in a box on the dresser now, sorted by season, some still scented with lavender or clove, others plain and dependable. The blue one, the heirloom, is only used for Thursdays and anniversaries, and particularly bold declarations of affection after dinner. As you lie back, you think about how these small gestures carry echoes of the people who came before you. There's a painting above the hearth, a woman in a high-waisted gown, sitting beside a basin and holding a ribbon between her teeth as she braids it. No one remembers who painted it or who she was, but the family story claims she tied 7 ribbons in one night and dreamed of her future spouse carrying apples in their apron. The next day, she met a man selling fruit. Historians still argue whether these bedtime prophecies were ever believed, or simply became a socially acceptable way to express longing. A sort of night-coded poetry. But it doesn't really matter. What matters is that someone cared enough to paint her. And someone else cared enough to hang it here, in this room where ribbons still carry meaning. You pull the covers a little tighter, the fire's glow warming your toes, and take stock of the charms currently in play. 1 garlic clove beneath the mattress, with 3 backups. 1 moon sachet tucked behind the headboard. A freshly wilted pear blossom, now archived. 2 feet, softly bound in sleepy velvet. And of course, the silent spoon, resting in its drawer like a knight between quests. The room feels protected. You feel ridiculous, but you also feel cherished. And really, isn't that the point? Love, especially love that lasts, isn't built on sweeping gestures or grand declarations. It's built on garlic under the bed and ribbon on a sock. On whispered rhymes and bedtime notes, and the willingness to look very silly in the name of tenderness. You let your eyes close for just a moment, the warmth of the fire lapping at your feet, and you imagine the next generation, years from now, trying to make sense of all this. Wondering why the old ribbon box smells faintly of oranges. Trying to decode the margin notes in the almanac. Arguing, probably, about the proper number of cloves to use. You hope they laugh. You hope they add new rituals of their own. You hope they never forget the sock-binding rhyme. Because tonight, as you drift back into your second sleep, ribbons loose and dreams waiting just beyond the candlelight, you know one simple truth. Softness is an inheritance. And you are wrapped in it, toe to toe. The following night, the room is restless. It's not loud, no storms or creaking shutters or overly confident cats demanding entry, but the kind of unsettled that seeps in sideways. The fire won't catch quite right, the sheets feel like they've swapped sides with a stranger, and even the silent spoon seems to emit a faintly judgmental aura from its drawer, as if to say, perhaps someone forgot to salt the corners this week. You sigh. It's time for the bedward superstitions to earn their keep. Tonight calls for something more substantial. You retrieve the night bowl. This ancient, lopsided ceramic vessel lives beneath the bed most of the year, nestled among forgotten slippers and a mothball shaped like a hedgehog. It is not for soup. It is for warding. For calming. For ceremony. Into it you place 3 things. A sprig of rosemary, still slightly damp from this morning's rain. A twist of wool thread, blue, always blue. A single almond, uncracked, unshelled, chosen at random from the jar by the hearth. You add a drop of lavender oil, swirl the contents gently, and whisper the old incantation, more lullaby than spell. Bowl of night, catch all unrest. Trap each worry, cradle each guest. No one knows where the night bowl tradition began. Some say it was a baker's superstition, meant to keep nightmares from rising too early, like dough. Others claim it was the invention of an anxious midwife with too many cousins and not enough sleep. Historians still argue whether the ritual held any true magical weight, or whether the act of gathering small, fragrant things simply gives the heart something to hold on to. You believe it works. You place the bowl beside the hearth. Just close enough to catch shadows but far enough not to startle the cat if she decides to make a midnight inspection. The room instantly feels better. Not perfect, but settled. As if it has exhaled. You glance at your partner, who is already under the covers, buried to the chin and clearly pretending to be asleep to avoid participating in the bowl ceremony. Classic. You allow it. Some rituals are communal. Some are solo. What matters is that they are honored. With the bowl in place, you move to the windows. You open them just a crack, not enough to invite a breeze, but enough for the house to breathe. You scatter a few grains of salt along the sill, Then add a dried bay leaf from last year's midsummer garland. This is called whispering the lintel, and it's supposed to stop bad dreams from slipping in on the backs of night birds or overly dramatic gusts of wind. The rhyme, muttered as you scatter, is short. Salt the sill and bay the beam. Let only kindness enter the dream. It's barely audible. You mumble it around a yawn. But it counts. As you return to bed, you catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror. Hair wild. Eyes sleepy. Carrying a tiny dish of salt and wearing socks with embroidered toads. Absolutely terrifying to evil spirits. Perfect. You slide under the covers. The bed is still a bit off-kilter, like it's been listening to too many confusing stories, but you smooth the quilt and offer a gentle pat to the pillow as a kind of apology. Your partner shifts. One eye opens. Did you do the bowl? You nod. Did you bathe the lintel? Obviously. They relax, as if that settles the matter entirely. And, to be fair, it kind of does. Bedtime rituals in your household are not about belief in the supernatural so much as belief in each other's need for softness, for ceremony, for a shared language of bedtime peace. You perform them like dance steps, half-remembered, often clumsy, but full of intent. Tonight, the night bowl seems to work its magic more quickly than usual. Within moments, your limbs begin to grow heavy. Your eyelids flutter. Even the room seems to tilt gently toward sleep, like a flower leaning into the last sunbeam. You drift. And in that curious space between wake and dream, you imagine the bowl glowing faintly. The rosemary twitches. The almond splits with a soundless pop. The wool thread coils and uncoils like a serpent that only dreams of comfort. All of it swirling in the bowl's cool basin, catching stray worries like fireflies in a jar. Outside, the wind shifts. A bell tinkles faintly in the garden. Inside, your breath slows. The bed rights itself, finally. You smile. Because this is what the bowl was always meant to do, not banish fear, but hold it gently. Not erase restlessness, but give it something fragrant and ancient to rest against. In the morning, you'll empty the bowl into the compost heap, thanking each item before returning it to the earth. The rosemary will bless the soil. The thread will tangle among roots and whispers. And the almond, still whole, will wait for rain. But for now you sleep. You and your ribboned feet and your partner with their suspiciously perfect pillow placement. The room breathes with you. The salt guards the sill. The bowl holds the weight. And somewhere, far away, a night bird peeks in and decides to keep flying. Because this room is full. Full of softness. Of ritual. Of lavender-scented declarations that don't require belief, just intention. You shift slightly, your fingers brushing the quilt's familiar seam, and sigh with the contentment of someone who has successfully wrangled the intangible into a ceramic bowl for one more night. The spoon in the drawer agrees. You awaken to the smallest sound imaginable, a single grain of salt tumbling off the windowsill and landing with a whisper-soft plip onto the floor. It's the kind of sound no one else would notice, but your ears have been tuned by rituals and night bowls and ribbon socks to catch the most delicate signs that the world is turning gently in your favor. The room feels unusually crisp this morning. Not cold, just aware. As though the very walls are listening politely, waiting for your first move. You sit up, stretch, and glance toward the hearth. The night bowl is still there, unchanged on the outside but somehow fuller, like it has absorbed the shadows and dreams of the room and is now quietly digesting them. Your partner is still asleep, breathing evenly, curled in a blanket not that defies logic and at least two of nature's rules. You don't disturb them. Instead, you slip out of bed and pad toward the wardrobe, your feet light and careful across the creaking boards. Today is warding wash day. A very specific ritual, observed only once every few weeks, and only when the moon is neither waxing nor waning. It's said that linens washed on a neutral moon absorb no ill will, no misplaced longing, no backtalk from old pillowcases. You gather the laundry with reverence. It's not just sheets and pillow slips today, it's the dream cloth as well. The dream cloth is a large, soft blanket woven from alternating strands of wool, cotton, and one barely believable thread of silver. Or so the legend goes. Realistically, it's mostly wool, but it shimmers ever so slightly in firelight, and that alone has earned it mythic status in the bedroom. It's only washed on warding wash days. Anything more frequent would be overkill and, frankly, exhausting. You carry everything to the wash basin by the window and set to work. The soap you use is another story altogether. It's a square bar, pale green, carved with a sun on one side and a sleeping cat on the other. You got it from a traveling merchant who insisted it was made with crushed thyme, moon water, and just a whisper of prophecy. You were skeptical. But then again, you did have an unusually insightful dream about asparagus the first night you used it, so maybe there's something to it. You lather the cloths carefully, pressing them against the ridged washboard with slow, meditative strokes. As the suds rise, so does a soft, herby scent, part kitchen, part memory. You hum while you work. A lullaby your grandmother used to sing when folding sheets. The words are lost to time and possibly invented in the first place, but the tune remains. It loops like a soft circle, comforting and utterly impossible to stop once begun. Outside, a breeze carries the song through the open window. Somewhere nearby, a wind chime answers. As you rinse the dream cloth, you notice a single thread has worked its way loose. Not frayed exactly, more like curious. You hold it between your fingers and wonder, was this the silver one? The thread of clarity? The one that's supposed to reveal a forgotten truth if you whisper into it while drowsy? You whisper anyway. Just in case. Don't let me forget why softness matters. The thread listens. Or pretends to. You tuck it back in and finish the rinse. Once everything is washed, you hang the linens by the garden wall, where the sun is just beginning to dapple the ground. The sheets billow like ships. The dream cloth hangs heavier, slower to sway, as though it remembers every dream ever dreamt beneath it, and is reluctant to let go of even one. Historians still argue whether cloth held memory in Renaissance folklore, or whether this was simply a poetic metaphor passed off as fact by sentimental weavers. You suspect both are true. You return inside, fingers pruny, arms damp, and soul just slightly soothed. Your partner has woken and is standing in the doorway, hair askew, clutching the murmur mug. This is the vessel reserved for first sips of morning tea or warm wine, depending on the emotional weather. Its name comes from the fact that it supposedly absorbs the first words spoken each morning, and keeps them warm for reuse later in the day. Today, those first words are, "Did you salt the foot of the bed?" You pause. Blink. "No," you reply, eyes widening. "I salted the sill and bathed the beam. I forgot the foot." There's a beat of silence. Then they sip. Tragic, they say, with the dry theatricality of someone mourning a purely symbolic misstep. How will we ever survive the curse of ungrounded linens? You both break into laughter. Because that's the real point of all this, isn't it? The rituals, the talismans, the soap and salt and spoons, they're not about control. They're about choosing to treat the mundane as meaningful. About saying, this matters. This bed. This morning. This quiet laughter in a house full of sleepy magic. You take the mug, sip from the other side, and make a new vow. Next wash day, you'll remember the salt. And maybe you'll embroider a reminder into the dream cloth, just to be sure. The rest of the day unfurls slowly. The sheets dry in the sun. The ribboned socks are washed and returned to their drawer. The night bowl is emptied with a whispered thanks and cleaned with rosewater and mint leaves. By evening, the bed has been remade, every fold and layer infused with the scent of clean linen, lavender, and a trace of time prophecy. You press your palm to the pillow and feel it exhale. Your partner climbs in first, stretching luxuriously and patting the spot beside them like a cat claiming ownership. You join them, curling under the dream cloth, which seems to sigh with relief at your return. The room is quieter than usual tonight. Maybe it's the neutral moon. Maybe it's the whisper you gave the thread. Or maybe, just maybe, it's because you remembered. Softness matters. And you've wrapped yourself in it, fresh and warm, just in time for sleep. Tonight, you can feel it in your shoulders, the kind of hush that doesn't come from silence alone, but from the gentle satisfaction of having completed a full cycle of care. The bed smells like sun-dried dreams. Your socks are still warm from the hearth. The tea was poured with both hands. And the pillows? Perfectly fluffed. Almost too fluffed, really. One of them is giving I've got opinions energy. But you accept this. You stretch, then settle. Your partner is already asleep, mouth slightly open in a way that suggests they were in the middle of a very persuasive dream speech and simply forgot to finish it. You smile, tuck the dream cloth higher over their shoulder, and give the night a small nod of acknowledgement. Tonight you'll try the thread of whim. It's a tradition less known than ribbon binding or night bowls, but cherished by those who practice it. The thread of whim is exactly what it sounds like, a spool of thread, dyed the color of clover or twilight, depending on your household tradition, and kept beside the bed for nights when your dreams need steering, not away from nightmares, but towards something delightfully unexpected. You pull the spool from the drawer. Tonight's thread is green, with a twist of copper that glints in firelight. You don't unravel much, just enough to loop 3 times around your index finger. Then you whisper the invitation. Thread of whim, take me there. Where dreams wear velvet and don't care. The rhyme is nonsense. It always has been. But it works. You lie back, hand resting gently on your chest, thread still wrapped like a secret promise. And as your eyes drift closed, you think of all the places whimsy might take you, ballrooms under the sea, libraries that hum lullabies, meadows where bees wear shoes. But instead you find yourself in a dream that feels closer to home. It's a Renaissance village, but not a grand one. No gilded fountains or perfumed dukes. Just crooked cottages, ivy-covered windows, and a baker who leaves tiny poems in her bread. You walk the winding paths, thread still looped around your hand in the dream, guiding you like a very polite leash. At one point, a goose wearing a tiny velvet bonnet waddles past. No one reacts. It's clearly the village notary. You continue, guided by the thread, until you reach a small apothecary tucked between 2 leaning houses. The sign reads, Whimsy Ground and Company, no practical cures, just better sleep. Inside, the shelves are full of sachets, loose petals, and labels written in a mixture of Latin, French, and hopeful spelling. The apothecary herself is knitting. Without looking up, she gestures to a jar labeled Dreams for 2. You lift the lid and inhale. Chamomile. Cedar. And something you can't place. But it smells like a memory you haven't had yet. The apothecary speaks at last. Tie the thread to something before you wake. Or it'll wander. That's the only advice she offers. You reach into the jar, take a pinch of the dream mix, and rub it between your fingers. The scent clings, warm and faintly mischievous. When you wake, your fingers still smell like it. And the thread? Still on your finger, but now looped around the edge of your pillow. Tied, just like she said. You sit up slowly, blinking at the dim morning light creeping through the curtain. That wasn't just a dream. Or rather, it was exactly a dream. The kind you want to hold on to, like a pebble from the shore of somewhere beautiful. You carefully untie the thread, wind it back onto its spool, and place it beside the spoon. Your partner stirs. You threaded? You nod. Good night? You think for a moment. It was whimsical. They snort and sit up, their hair doing an impression of a Renaissance tapestry after a windstorm. Did you see the goose? You blink. Wait. The one in the bonnet? A pause. And then, in perfect unison, she's the notary. You both burst out laughing. It seems the dream was shared. That's the thing about the thread of whim. It's less a spell and more a permission slip. A nudge to the subconscious to play kindly with others. Historians still argue whether such threads were ever truly part of documented Renaissance traditions, or if they were an invention of overly romantic tailors with too much thread and too few customers. Either way, the tradition has survived. Over breakfast, a crusty roll and some cinnamon-steeped milk, you and your partner recount every silly detail. The shoes on the bees. The poems in the bread. The apothecary's utterly unhelpful but charming presence. You write it all down in the dream ledger, a soft-bound book you started long ago. Its pages are crammed with everything from flying lute concerts to intimate conversations with Moss. You date each entry. You add doodles. And every so often, when you need reminding that your mind is a place worth visiting, you flip back through its dreamscapes and smile. That afternoon, you wash the dream ledger's silk cover with rosewater and mend the spine with waxed thread. Not because it needs it, but because maintenance is a form of love. You light a candle. You press a sprig of thyme into the back pages for luck. And you leave the thread of whim out in plain sight, just in case the night wants to play again. By bedtime, the room has settled into its favorite rhythm. The night bowl is not needed tonight. It's resting on the windowsill like a satisfied retiree. The spoon lies peaceful in its drawer. The pillows have finally decided on neutrality. And you? You loop a bit of thread again, just once this time, more as a gesture than an invitation. You breathe. And sleep finds you before the thread can even finish its first twirl around your finger. The next morning arrives with a whisper. Not a trumpet of dawn or an enthusiastic rooster auditioning for a drama troupe, just the soft shuffle of morning light tiptoeing across the floorboards. It brushes your face, nudging you gently from sleep like a cat pawing a cheek. You stir, eyes blinking open to the familiar hush of a room still wrapped in dream residue. The thread is gone. Well, not gone exactly. It's now woven into the cuff of your nightshirt. Delicately. Elegantly. As if a sleepy mouse with tailoring ambitions had crept in and said, "Yes, this is fashion." You don't remember doing it. You don't remember dreaming it. But the stitchwork is neat, and the copper glint is unmistakable. You stretch, crack your knuckles, and yawn the kind of yawn that could double as a foghorn in a small maritime village. Your partner grunts from their side of the bed, rolls over, and mutters, "The notary says hello." You both groan. There is no escaping shared whimsy once it takes hold. It lingers. Like glitter, or rumors, or oddly specific regional folk songs. You roll out of bed, careful not to disturb the delicate balance of scent and softness that the linens have cultivated overnight. The air carries hints of sage, vanilla, and last night's candle wax. Your socks are waiting for you, folded into little buns that somehow suggest anticipation. You slip them on and begin your day with a quiet nod to the dreamcloth, which is still artfully rumpled in a way that says, "Yes, we held important dreams. No, we won't tell you what they were." Downstairs, the kitchen is unusually quiet. You heat water with sleepy precision, avoiding the clinking of spoons out of respect for the silence. As the kettle murmurs, you take out a small tin marked for gentle fortitude. Inside are herbs, flowers, and exactly one clove, an old superstition meant to ward off accidental bad moods caused by low blood sugar and lunar confusion. You brew. You sip. You let the warmth crawl through your chest like a slow, kind ghost. And then you remember. Today is the day of the bed riddle. This peculiar tradition, rarely practiced outside of obscure Renaissance villages and households that believe in mildly enchanted upholstery, involves placing a riddle beneath the bed before dusk. The person who finds it, or dreams of the answer, is responsible for choosing the evening's bedtime ritual. It's equal parts game, folklore, and gentle coercion. Last week, your partner had hidden the riddle inside a hollow bedpost. You found it only after dropping your bookmark and following it like a breadcrumb. The riddle read, "What has a head and a tail, but only wiggles if you believe in it?" You never quite figured out the answer, but you spent hours imagining what it might be. You're currently leaning toward a flirtatious eel. Now it's your turn. You fetch the bed riddle book, a slim, linen-bound volume filled with cryptic questions and handwritten additions from past generations. The oldest entry reads, "Why does the blanket never sleep?" The most recent, "If dreams had doorbells, what would they sound like?" You choose a riddle halfway between charming and absurd. What tiptoes through your thoughts wearing borrowed shoes? You write it on a scrap of dried lavender paper, fold it into a triangle, and tuck it under the corner of the mattress, just visible enough to be discovered but mysterious enough to inspire dramatic interpretation. The rest of the day unfolds in soft rhythms. You beat the rugs, lightly, lovingly. You polish the spoon, because it deserves appreciation. You brush the window curtains with a sprig of rosemary bound in twine, not because they're dusty, but because rosemary is rumored to dispel lingering awkwardness from overly complex dreams involving ex-lovers and misplaced barn animals. Historians still argue whether rosemary was used for scent, symbolism, or simple abundance during the Renaissance. But every herb gardener knows, where rosemary grows, contentment follows. By late afternoon, the bed is calling again. Not for sleep, but for preparation. You remake the pillows into their evening formation, 2 stacked, 1 angled, and 1 with a hidden sachet sewn inside bearing your initials and the date of your first shared nap. It's not embroidered perfectly, but that's the charm. Your partner returns from their errands, or possibly a 3-hour encounter with the town's aggressively flirtatious candle merchant, and raises an eyebrow at the room. The riddle is planted, you announce solemnly. They grin. I accept this challenge. Dinner is slow. It includes 3 kinds of bread and a jam that might technically be marmalade if you tilt your head and squint at the ingredients. There's laughter. There's a heated debate about whether one can flirt using only syllables that rhyme with plum. There's an accidental toast made to the eternal patience of mattress springs. You both pretend that last one wasn't slightly ominous. And then, as the candlelight grows lazier, it's time. Your partner lifts the edge of the mattress with mock ceremony and retrieves the folded paper. They read it aloud, theatrically. What tiptoes through your thoughts wearing borrowed shoes? They pause. They smile. That's a whisper, they say, with the casual wisdom of someone who definitely spent too long in a bookstore earlier. And just like that, they've won. Which means they choose tonight's bedtime ritual. They don't hesitate. The mirror bowl, they say. You blink. Bold choice. The mirror bowl is a lesser-used tradition in your household. It involves placing a small silver bowl filled with water beside the mirror, lit from behind by candlelight. The idea is that the bowl reflects the reflection, doubling the room's presence, and allegedly allowing one to meet the version of themselves that visits from the dream world. It's gentle, odd, a little spooky, but in a friendly way. You prepare it with care. Water poured under moonlight from the kitchen jug. Bowl polished until it sighs. Candle lit with a match that smells faintly of clove and forgotten postcards. When you carry it to the mirror and set it down, the room holds its breath. The bowl gleams. The candle flickers. And in the reflection, you see not just yourselves, but the soft blur of 1,000 previous bedtimes watching back, patient and amused. You don't speak. You just sit on the edge of the bed, shoulders brushing, the dream cloth folded back and waiting. Your reflections shimmer. And in the bowl, the whisper walks by, wearing your old slippers. Because whimsy never leaves. It just borrows shoes. The mirror bowl sits quietly on the bedside table, its silver surface flickering with the candlelight, water trembling with each shift of breath. It's not spooky, not exactly. Just thoughtful. Like the bowl is observing you both and making notes in invisible ink. You lie back slowly, careful not to jostle the setup. The mirror bowl works best if left undisturbed, or so the instruction scroll insists. It had been tucked in the back of a book called Domestic Enchantments for the Mildly Curious, right between a recipe for snore-melting lemon soup and a list of appropriate lullabies for unruly bedposts. The candle flickers again. You squint at the reflection in the water. It's distorted, rippling with your heartbeat, maybe, or the shifting of the sheets. Or maybe the reflection has plans of its own. No one really knows how old the mirror bowl tradition is. Some say it originated in the apothecaries of Venice, others in the quiet herb gardens of French convents. One scholar suggested it may have simply been invented by bored chambermaids who wanted an excuse to stare at water without being assigned more chores. Historians still argue whether it was a tool for prophecy or just an exceptionally reflective sleep aid. You turn to your partner, voice low. Should we say the phrase? They nod, already half smiling. Together you whisper, let what watches gently guide, and what glimmers softly slide. It doesn't do anything dramatic. No ghostly figure rises. No dream self pokes its head out with a hat tip. But the bowl's surface settles. Calm. Reassuring. Like a cat that has finally chosen your lap after 2 hours of judgmental staring. You smile. That's enough magic for one night. As you drift off, the soft weight of sleep creeping up behind your eyes, your last thoughts are of silver moons, borrowed shoes, and the strange comfort of seeing yourself twice. In the morning, the mirror bowl is empty. Dry. Not spilled. Not knocked over. Just, quietly, entirely dry. Your partner stares at it. You stare at it. The candle has burned out to a stub. You both agree silently that this means absolutely nothing and also everything. You return the bowl to its shelf with reverence, the sort usually reserved for retiring noblewomen or very special teacups. Later, as you dress, you reach for your underthings and pause. There, neatly folded atop your undershirt, is a sprig of rosemary bound in green thread. You didn't put it there. Neither did your partner. Or so they claim. It smells strong, like sharp memory and warm toast. A scent that doesn't match the soft neutrality of your morning. You slip it into your pocket, figuring it might be the universe's idea of perfume. By the time breakfast is ready, tea, honeyed oats, and a slice of leftover pear tart you both agree should count as fruit, you feel restored. Refreshed. Marginally bewitched, in a consensual kind of way. That's when the envelope appears. Placed on the windowsill, as if dropped by a bird with very neat handwriting, it's sealed with wax in the shape of a crescent moon. Inside is a single line. Tonight, perform the whispered underwear blessing. You glance at your partner. They hold up both hands. Wasn't me. You squint. It's your handwriting. They shrug. Could have been Dream Me. Dream Me's very proactive. You consider this. Accept it. The whispered underwear blessing is one of those bedtime rituals that blurs the line between practicality and charm. Not well known. Not widely discussed. But quietly cherished among those who believe a well-spoken word at the right time can keep away everything from bad dreams to mismatched socks. The tradition is simple. Before bed, you whisper a personal intention into the fold of your nightclothes, something you wish to carry with you into the night and beyond. It can be serious or silly, poetic or absurd. Last time, your blessing had been, "May my thoughts find warm corners to rest in." Your partner's? "Let my dreams remember where I left the cheese." Both had worked. You spend the day considering your words. You water the pot at time. You oil the drawer hinges, with lavender-infused wax, of course. You write 3 possible blessings on parchment scraps, then crumple all of them for being not quite right. By dusk, the sky is a velvet blue. You prepare the bed with care. The dream cloth is folded back with a flourish. A fresh sprig of rosemary is tucked beneath each pillow. You both change into your nightwear like actors slipping into character. Loose linen, soft edges, the exact kind of outfit that says, "I am here for comfort and possibly minor enchantments." You each hold your nightclothes close. Whisper your blessings. Yours is simple tonight. Let my heart take notes without judgment. Your partner mumbles theirs too quietly for you to hear. That's part of the charm. It's meant to be private, like a letter to the moon folded into cotton. You tuck into bed. The sheets sigh beneath you. The air smells faintly of cloves and old ink. Sleep arrives gently, curling around your ankles like mist. You wake slowly. Your nightclothes are still warm, and your heart feels lighter. You rise, stretch, and find a folded note on your nightstand. Not from your partner. Not from yourself. Just 4 words, inked in a familiar yet unplaceable hand. It was well received. There's no explanation. No signature. Just the knowledge that somewhere, your whispered blessing was heard. Not necessarily granted. Not changed. Just acknowledged. And sometimes, that's all you need. Today begins with buttered bread and exactly 1 cloud shaped like a rabbit with aspirations of becoming a bishop. You stare at it through the kitchen window while your tea steeps, 1 eyebrow raised in sleepy approval. Downstairs, the air smells like toast and thyme. A good omen. You're still carrying the rosemary from yesterday in your pocket, though now it's starting to shed tiny green needles that cling lovingly to your socks. You don't mind. Rosemary's like that, clingy, comforting, and always slightly mysterious about its motives. Your partner, still tangled in their robe like a Renaissance burrito, trudges into the kitchen and grunts something about an almond dream and too many candles shaped like animals. You nod solemnly. Dreams often get crowded when the mirror bowl's been involved. As you wash up the breakfast plates, your mind drifts to a peculiar item mentioned in Aunt Marguerite's old dream ledger: chamber pots and marital fortunes. Now look, you're no stranger to the oddities of Renaissance hygiene. You've read about the lemon-scented rags, the vinegar foot baths, the debates over whether soap was too spicy for skin. But even you raise an eyebrow at a passage that simply reads, "On nights before great decisions, fennel was dropped into the pot. Its float foretold fidelity. Its sink foretold forks in fate." You reread the line. Float equals fidelity. Sink equals forks. You're still trying to unpack that one. Naturally, your curiosity gets the better of you. In the hallway cupboard, beneath a collection of mildly haunted teacups, you retrieve the ceremonial chamber pot. It's porcelain, decorated with an alarmingly cheerful cherub on one side and an equally startled goat on the other. You've never used it for anything practical. It mostly exists for tradition and comedic threats. Today, it gets its moment. You polish it until the goat looks less alarmed. Then you search the spice cupboard for fennel. Not just any fennel, ledger-worthy fennel. Dry, crisp, possibly overeducated fennel. You find a small packet labeled fortune seeds, handle with humor, and decide it will do nicely. You fill the pot with clean water, because there are limits, even for you, and drop in one single fennel seed. It bobs, then sinks, then rises again, and spins. You watch, transfixed, as this humble seed performs an interpretive dance routine worthy of a moderately successful opera house. Fidelity? You ask it. It spins left. Fork in fate? It leans diagonally and bobs twice. You sigh. The seed, clearly either indecisive or auditioning for a role in The Phantom of the Pantry, offers no firm answers. You retrieve it with a spoon and set it on a napkin to contemplate its life choices. Your partner enters just in time to see you bow slightly to a wet fennel seed. They do not ask questions, because this is not their first Renaissance rodeo. Instead, they prepare the dream bowl, tonight's planned ritual. Not to be confused with the night bowl, which is more about absorbing emotional tension, or the porridge bowl, which has no magical purpose unless you count fiber as spellcraft. The dream bowl is filled with water, crushed mint leaves, and a few lavender petals. The key is to place it under the bed, precisely aligned with the heart. Not your head. Not your feet. Your heart. Because, apparently, that's where the dreams decide their tone. As the sun sets, you both gather the tools. The bowl. The petals. A tiny charm sewn into a ribbon, tonight's token of trust. You tie the ribbon to the bed frame and take turns holding the bowl over your hearts, murmuring quiet requests. Yours, let me understand without words. Theirs, may no dream feature a goat with ambition. You place the bowl beneath the bed, aligned by moonlight and instinct. Then the two of you settle into bed, side by side, quiet and content. The scent of mint and lavender rises slowly, like a lullaby for the skin. As you drift off, your thoughts swirl with fennel and ribbons and the persistent feeling that the goat on the chamber pot knows something you don't. The dreams that follow are gentle, but strange. You're in a library made entirely of bread. Each book is crusty, warm, and smells faintly of cinnamon. The librarian is a potato with excellent posture and no tolerance for overdue rye. You wander the shelves until you find a volume titled The Chamber Pot Confessions, Volume 3. Inside, there are recipes, love letters, and exactly one diagram that suggests chamber pots were once used as musical instruments. You close the book gently and whisper, "Some truths should remain decorative." The potato nods. You awaken to the soft tinkling of the wind chimes on your balcony. The air smells clean, herbal, and ever so slightly of toast. You check beneath the bed. The dream bowl is dry. The petals are gone. The ribbon has changed color, from soft gray to a pale, forgiving blush. You smile. No need to understand. Just to appreciate. Later that morning, you write the dream down in the dream ledger. Spoke to a potato. Bread knowledge. Chamber music. You draw the goat for posterity. You place the fennel seed in a little envelope labeled Mystic Maybe and pin it to the wall beside the dream cloth. Your partner finds it later and leaves a note. He floated for us both. You chuckle. And with that, your day begins, with herbal tea, a quiet heart, and the kind of mystery that doesn't demand answers, only respect. Because in a Renaissance bedchamber, even a fennel seed has secrets. The morning wears velvet slippers and moves with unhurried grace. You stretch, one arm flopping dramatically over the pillow like a fainting aristocrat. The scent of the previous night lingers, mint, lavender, and the barely there sweetness of dreams cooled under moonlight. The dream bowl is now empty, but it left behind something more curious, a single dried peach stone sitting innocently on the nightstand. You blink. You poke it. It doesn't blink back, which is frankly a relief. You call softly to your partner, who appears in the doorway holding a spoon and a skeptical expression. That wasn't me, they say before you've even spoken. You raise an eyebrow. So we're being visited by produce now? They shrug, spoon still in hand. Could be a sign. Could be the squirrels unionizing. Either way, you take the peach stone between your fingers and hold it up to the light. It's smooth, dark, and oddly warm, like it was resting in someone's palm until just before dawn. You feel a twinge of something between curiosity and amusement. You vaguely recall a mention of peach stones in Aunt Marguerite's notes, scribbled between instructions for clove sachets and a list of names she thought would suit swans. You flip through the dream ledger until you find it. A peach stone under the sheet invites affection, but attracts gossip if cracked. You both stare at the note. Your partner whispers, "Have you cracked it?" You look at the stone again. Intact. Whole. Innocent. Still, just to be sure, you tuck it in a silk pouch and place it on the mantel, an honored guest, not a cracked one. Later that day, you gather the necessary tools for a proper bed-warming peach stone spell. A tradition said to originate in the Pyrenees, possibly from shepherds who believed fruit seeds held the warmth of summer sun and could transfer affection when tucked in beside a sleeping form. Historians still argue whether the tradition was romantic or simply an early form of portable bed heater. You retrieve a tiny cloth pouch from the mystic drawer, the one that contains assorted ribbons, wax seals, and that one sachet that smells like lemon, sorrow, and mild ambition. You place the peach stone inside along with a sprinkle of dried basil, for affection, and a single oat, for steadiness. Oats are famously unshakable. You sew the pouch shut with 3 loops of gold thread and whisper the traditional incantation. For hearts to warm and secrets stay, peach in dreams shall guide the way. Your partner, watching from the doorway, claps once with mock solemnity. Does the oat always go in? You nod. Unless you want love without structure. Which sounds exhausting. The stone is ready. You tuck the little pouch between the bed linens, just below the center pillow, right where body heat and whispering dreams are most likely to meet. You don't expect anything overt, just maybe a sweeter sleep, or a dream involving cooperative sheep. Evening approaches with a golden glow that slides across the windows like warm honey. Dinner is light, herbed rice, candied carrots, and a pear poached in something neither of you can quite identify but agree tastes like nostalgia with a hint of almond. As twilight deepens, you retire to the bedchamber and note the unusual stillness of the room. Not silent, just waiting. You both slip into your nightclothes, sharing quiet smiles and one argument about which side of the bed is historically luckier. You win, mostly because you cited a fictional monk named Brother Sidonius who believed the left side absorbed more moonlight. You ease into bed. The pouch is warm already. The scent of basil rises faintly with your breath. And as your eyes close, you feel something else, a presence, not seen but sensed, like a blessing wrapped in flannel. Your dream takes you to a long hallway lit entirely by candlelight, the air thick with warmth and spice. Every few feet, a peach tree grows, not in soil, but from bowls of warm milk. You pass each one, noting the blossoms shaped like tiny pillows and the fruit that hums softly in a major key. A peach falls at your feet. You pick it up, bite in, and taste exactly what you needed to hear. But when you wake, the flavor is already fading, and you're left only with the echo of sweetness and the impression that someone, somewhere, tucked you in quite carefully. The pouch remains in its place, but it's heavier now. You open it. Alongside the peach stone is a tiny note, written in miniature script on rose-colored paper. You remembered the oath. Thank you? You show your partner. They blink, then say, I told you. The squirrels are organized. You both laugh, but there's something reverent in the way you refold the paper and slide it back into the pouch. The stone, it seems, has more to say. Later that day, you add a new page to the dream ledger. Peach spells work. Include oat. Expect polite notes. You illustrate it with a drawing of a peach balancing on a stack of pillows. And below it, you write your newest bedtime blessing. Let warmth linger longer than worry. Because some spells are just bedtime wishes said out loud. And sometimes, a stone is never just a stone. The next morning arrives in soft shades of barley and butter, gentle sunbeams trickling through the linen curtains, birds half-heartedly chirping as if they, too, had stayed up late deciphering mysterious notes from enchanted fruit pits. You stretch slowly, spine crackling in a deeply satisfying sequence of pops that feels like medieval bubble wrap. The little pouch containing the peach stone still rests at the foot of the bed, looking smug for something with no facial features. You pick it up, give it a light shake, no new notes tumble out, but the warmth hasn't faded. The oat is holding its emotional ground. You pad over to the kitchen, where your partner is already deep in a conversation with the sourdough starter. It's unclear whether they're giving instructions or receiving them. You leave them to it. As you prep tea, lavender again, with a scandalous dash of honey, you glance at the dream ledger and realize you never finished reading the underbed sympathies entry in Aunt Marguerite's margin notes. You retrieve the tome and settle cross-legged on the rug, careful not to spill your tea on any of its delicately foxed pages. You find it easily now, underbed sympathies, scrawled in her tidy but clearly scribbled by candlelight script. According to Marguerite, certain items placed beneath the bed influence dreams, moods, and occasionally, unexpected declarations of affection from standoffish cats. The method, of course, varied by region. In Naples, it was common to slide a bundle of rosemary and sugarcane under the frame on nights when lovers had quarreled, in hopes that their dreams would entangle and resolve their woes through pastry metaphors. In Bruges, the bed legs were wrapped with strips of red wool soaked in chamomile tea during courtship seasons. And in Yorkshire, the local wisdom held that placing a piece of bread under your mattress guaranteed honesty in dreams, although historians still argue whether that referred to prophetic visions or just dreams in which people stopped lying about how much butter was left. You reread the entry, eyebrows inching upward. Bread honesty, you mutter, writing it down. What a concept. Your partner peers over your shoulder. Shall we try it? You consider the pantry. I don't think sourdough counts. It's too opinionated. Instead, you bake a small, unsalted wheat loaf, flat, plain, and designed not to distract with any emotional input. You let it cool, wrap it in linen embroidered with a sleepy goose, and place it reverently under the bed. Tonight will be a trial run of the Yorkshire underbed truth loaf. The name does not roll off the tongue. Still, after dinner, stew, sharp cheese, and pears, you prepare the room. The windows are cracked slightly to let in the breeze, and the curtains flutter like gossiping ladies at court. You place a single sprig of mint beneath your pillow and tuck yourselves into bed with the same care one reserves for folding silk shirts or housing visiting royalty. Your partner leans over and whispers, "Ready for the truth?" You nod, a little too eagerly. Sleep comes like a cat, suddenly, quietly, and without permission. In the dream, you're standing on a long, grassy hill under a sky full of moon-sized butter churns. It should be unsettling, but it isn't. A group of villagers nearby is engaged in a heated debate about whether goats dream in color. You wander past them, drawn to the base of the hill, where a loaf of bread sits on a velvet cushion. You approach it cautiously. It opens its crust slightly and speaks in a warm Yorkshire accent. "Just so you know, your socks are never really matching." You blink. It continues, also, you hum in your sleep. Not badly, mind, just tentatively. Then it closes and falls asleep again, apparently tired from being such a bastion of honesty. You look up. The sky churns slowly. Somewhere, a goat gives a gentle sigh of approval. You wake. The loaf under the bed is cool to the touch, faintly flattened, but intact. No bite marks. No messages. Yet you feel oddly lighter, like your inner self has just aired out its dusty corners and opened a window. Over breakfast, you and your partner compare notes. I dreamed I was a thimble, they say. It was profound. Also, I think I need to be more patient. You nod slowly. My bread spoke. It had critiques. But it was kind about them. You both agree the loaf worked. You write bread of emotional honesty equals success in the ledger, then sketch a small loaf wearing glasses for emphasis. Later that day, feeling gently energized by your psychological sourdough therapy, you decide to take things a step further. Tonight you'll attempt a rare and ambitious bedtime tradition, the pillow reversal ceremony. This, Aunt Marguerite warns, is not for the faint of heart or those allergic to feathers. The basic premise is simple. You turn your pillowcases inside out before bed, murmur a rhyme to invite clarity, and sleep with your heads facing the foot of the bed, but only if the moon is waning. If done during the waxing moon, the results may include heightened dream confusion, sock misplacement, and minor romantic misunderstandings regarding soup preferences. You check the almanac. Waning moon. Perfect. You prepare the bed accordingly. Pillowcases flipped, heads reoriented, and a protective sachet of sage and lemon verbena placed near the footboard to counteract any residual spatial confusion. You recite the rhyme together. Let dreams uncurl, like spools unwind. Bring clarity and soothe the mind. Head to toe and thought reversed. Bless the pillow, charm the cursed. You glance at each other. Nod once. Then you sleep. The dreams are vivid. You walk backward through a ballroom filled with birds wearing monocles. You speak only in rhymes but understand every word from the murmuring fountains. You meet a younger version of yourself trying to plant seeds in a drawer, insisting it's symbolic. You assist. It feels noble. When you wake, you're facing the wrong end of the bed and your pillow smells inexplicably like ink and honey. Your partner yawns. I remember every color I've ever seen. You sit up slowly. I know what the goat meant now. Neither of you elaborate. You don't need to. You write. Pillow reversal, destabilizing, revelatory. Requires footboard proximity. Recommended only on Thursdays. You underline Thursdays twice. Then you spend the morning reorienting your socks, your thoughts, and the Dream Ledger's ribbon bookmark, which has somehow ended up in the kitchen. You don't question it. Some dreams travel. You wake to find a spoon in your slipper. Not a metaphorical spoon. Not the kind of spoon one dreams about while floating through a Renaissance orchard. A real, honest-to-basil, cold-to-the-touch pewter spoon. Your slipper, incidentally, was under the bed last night, right beside the honesty loaf, which now smells faintly of time and judgment. You hold the spoon up like a tiny sword of inquiry. Your partner appears in the doorway, toothbrush in mouth, and gives the spoon a look. Ah, they say, foam muffling their voice slightly, you found it. There is no further elaboration. They disappear down the hallway humming a Gregorian chant that they absolutely did not know yesterday. You sip your tea slowly, one eye on the spoon. It is not a usual spoon. It's engraved. Tiny spirals run along the handle, and in the bowl, barely visible unless held to the light, is a single word, sympathy. You know what this is. You flip open Aunt Marguerite's ledger again and skim to a page dogged with a pressed violet tucked between the parchment. The silent spoon packed. The entry is dated 1593 and begins with the kind of warning that is both alluring and completely unhelpful. Only forge a spoon pact if you are prepared to be truly known. You read on. In certain Renaissance households, especially among the candlemaking guilds and court musicians, it was believed that the exchange of engraved spoons between close companions, partners, or those who regularly shared linens could invoke sympathetic dream alignment. In simpler terms, if you sleep near a spoon that someone else touched with genuine affection, your subconscious will, allegedly, sync with theirs. A shared dream. Or at the very least, matching moods in the morning? Historians still argue whether this was actual dream magic or just a very poetic way of saying please stop arguing about pillows. You place the spoon on the table beside the dream ledger. It gleams gently in the morning sun, as if pleased to be understood. Later that day, you and your partner hold a brief and ceremonious spoon exchange. You each hold the spoon for 7 seconds, no more, no less, while looking each other squarely in the eyes and trying not to laugh. You almost make it. Your partner cracks first and says this feels like a spell invented by kitchenware salesmen. But you both complete the exchange and tuck the spoon beneath your shared pillow, nestled among the folds of the earlier mint sachet and a ribbon now rumored to ward off dream-wrinkled bedsheets. The room feels subtly warmer afterward. Or maybe that's just the result of all that dream alignment energy bumping elbows. Dinner that evening is simple. Lentil soup with too much thyme, your fault. A hunk of bread with mysterious resolve, the loaf stewing, and pears again because pears seem to be a theme this week. As you prepare for bed, the ritual's now second nature. Pillow fluffing, sachet arranging, goat sculpture dusting, you both pause at the foot of the bed. The spoon waits. You climb in gently, as if stepping into a particularly complicated sentence. Your partner does the same. Sleep arrives almost before the last lamp is blown out. In the dream, you find yourself in a quiet village square, surrounded by market stalls selling only spoons. Some are wooden and carved with vines. Others are glass, humming faintly when the wind shifts. A vendor approaches and offers you a spoon filled with starlight. You accept without hesitation. Your partner is there too, across the square, holding a ladle large enough to reflect the entire sky. You wave. They wave back. And in that odd dream way, you both understand everything without speaking. You share a meal you can't remember. You laugh at jokes you've never heard. You walk side by side without needing to decide where you're going. You wake at the same time. No alarm. No rooster. Just perfect timing. There's a calm in the room, like after a long, restorative rain. The spoon is still beneath the pillow. Cooler now. Still engraved. You both smile and nod, a silent confirmation that whatever pact was made, it worked. After breakfast, oats and affirmation, you inscribe a new entry in the dream ledger. Shared dream successful. Felt understood. Highly recommend for Thursdays and emotional Tuesdays. You draw a spoon with wings. The rest of the day drifts by in that post-spell softness. You write a little, rearrange the dream sachets in alphabetical order, and discover an old ribbon marked emotional buoyancy, lavender-scented. You decide to wear it in your hair. Your partner spends the afternoon rereading old volumes of the Codex of Sleepy Enchantments, and making quiet notes like pillow rituals for foggy days and pears equals liminal fruit. In the evening, while you both brush your teeth side by side, you wonder aloud. What if we try the old perfumed letters beneath the quilt charm next? Your partner nods with the kind of enthusiasm that involves glitter glue. You each choose a scrap of parchment, yours rose pink and theirs pale green. On it, you write a quiet truth you want the other to know while they sleep. You spritz your letter with a mist of lavender and vanilla. Your partner, more adventurous, goes with orange blossom and the barest dab of something mysterious called evening whisper. You fold the notes tightly, tuck them beneath the quilt near where your shoulders will rest, and whisper the traditional closing. Let this sleep cradle what words cannot. There are no further rituals tonight. Just the scent of stories unspoken, the rustle of linens, and the faint memory of a spoon. You fall asleep with the gentlest smile and dream of spoons that dance. By morning, the quilt has absorbed the perfume of your secret letters so completely that you half expect it to begin reciting poetry the moment you open your eyes. Fortunately, or perhaps unfortunately, it remains mute, though with an undeniably smug air. The letters themselves are still in place, each folded note slightly warmed by your shared dreaming. You hesitate to open them. Not because you're afraid, but because there's something lovely about a truth left gently unopened, like a book you trust will always be waiting. Instead, you both smile over your tea, yours chamomile, theirs nettle and pear, and agree silently to leave the letters where they are, at least for now. Let the dreams have their space. That afternoon, as clouds stroll in across the sky like gossipy old courtiers, you turn your attention to a superstition both deeply impractical and oddly compelling: the mirror facing the footboard rule. You read about it first in Aunt Marguerite's least organized section of the dream ledger, the one ominously labeled miscellaneous, dangerous nonsense, and plausibly cursed items. According to folklore, largely sourced from low-lit corridors and particularly talkative chambermaids, sleeping with a mirror facing the foot of your bed could invite ghostly visitors, accidental prophecies, or at the very least, some highly unflattering glimpses of your own sleep posture. Historians still argue whether this belief stems from early superstitions around soul reflection or just a widespread dislike of catching one's own double chin mid-snooze. You, of course, have a mirror facing the footboard. A lovely oval thing with delicate brass edging and a faint habit of fogging over without cause. Should we cover it? You ask your partner, one hand already halfway through tying a kerchief over the frame. They consider. Would that offend the mirror? You frown. What's the worst that could happen? You both freeze. A breeze stirs the curtains. Somewhere, faintly, a spoon clinks of its own accord. You cover the mirror. Just in case. That night you both double down on precautionary measures. Lavender tucked behind the ears, a circle of salt around the bedposts, and the addition of a pair of old velvet slippers at the foot of the bed, because someone somewhere once said ghosts hate stepping on plush. Just before lights out, you recite the protective rhyme. Mirror still, show no ill. Let our dreams be sweet and chill. Reflect not soul nor curious white. Just bounce back starlight through the night. There's a pause. Your partner adds also, don't be weird. Then you sleep. In your dream, the mirror does not misbehave. Instead, it becomes a window to a ballroom where couples dance in slow motion, all wearing nightcaps with embroidered moons. No one speaks, but the room is filled with the sound of turning pages, dream ledgers being leafed through by unseen hands. You spot yourself in the reflection. You're smiling, standing barefoot on a velvet rug, holding a spoon in one hand and a peach in the other. You wave at yourself. And your reflection, of course, waves back, then offers a wink so familiar you nearly laugh. When you wake, the mirror is still covered. You remove the kerchief with a flourish, half expecting it to reveal a message scrawled in condensation. But no, just your reflection, slightly rumpled, one eyebrow raised. Nothing spooky, you declare? Disappointing, your partner replies, examining their reflection for signs of eldritch approval. Still, just to be sure, you tape a small card to the back of the mirror frame. Please be polite and keep all reflections standard. Thank you. That evening, you sit together in the glow of 3 gently flickering candles and read up on the mirror's companion tradition, the east-to-west bed alignment rule. According to the scribbled notes in a 1647 herbal tucked inside Marguerite's ledger, beds should ideally run east to west. Allegedly, this was because the rising sun carried pure, dream-cleansing energy from the east, while the west absorbed any residual emotional chaos left over from arguments about socks. You fetch a compass. You check. Your bed runs precisely northeast to southwest. Your partner gasps. We've been sleeping diagonally all this time? You nod gravely. Emotionally adrift. Spiritually ask you. A decision is made. You will, gently and with no small amount of shoving, reorient the bed. What follows is a feat of domestic engineering involving 3 cushions, a mop handle, and a deeply suspicious cat who appears only to judge. Eventually, the bed sits perfectly aligned. East to west. Emotionally upright. Spiritually laminated. You both collapse into it triumphantly, limbs tangled, breathing hard but victorious. And though the room looks slightly smaller this way, it feels lighter somehow. Airier. More optimistic. That night you sleep with your heads to the east, and your dreams trailing softly toward the setting stars. In your dream you ride a goose. Not just any goose, a magnificent creature named Archbishop Beakerton. He wears a monocle and seems vaguely French. You're traveling across a sea made of feathers, headed west. The sun rises behind you and paints the feathers gold. You don't question it. Why would you? When you wake, the room feels like it's exhaled. The light is gentler. Your thoughts quieter. You write in the ledger. Bed now aligned. Dreams more linear. Goose present. May require a saddle. Later, over breakfast, you both sit in quiet satisfaction. The spoon gleams. The mirror behaves. The bed is pointing in a direction approved by both the sun and Archbishop Beakerton. Shall we try whistling next? Your partner suggests. You pause. Isn't that the thing you're not supposed to do before bed? They raise an eyebrow. Depends. Are we trying to attract fortune or frighten away suitors? You sip your tea. Why not both? And so begins the next experiment in bedtime rituals, but that's a tale for another night. For now, you rest your hand on the dream ledger's gently worn cover and smile. Sleep is not just a pause. It's a playground. And you are slowly learning all its hidden games. You whistle. Softly. Tentatively. Like someone trying to call a goose that may or may not be cursed. The sound barely leaves your lips before you glance nervously at the mirror, now respectfully covered in a spare pillowcase embroidered with tiny lemons. Nothing stirs. The spoon on the bedside table remains inert, and Archbishop Beakerton, the goose of your previous dreams, has not materialized in a puff of feather-scented mist. Yet. Still, the air shifts. You whistle again. This time, a bit more boldly. Just a short melody, something vaguely lullaby-esque but not too catchy, lest you summon the ghost of a Renaissance jester with unfinished business and a flute addiction. You've read conflicting accounts of bedtime whistling in the dream ledger. Some say it wards off evil spirits by mimicking their own screeches. Others believe it invites romantic luck or helps dreams arrive on time, like calling in a bus made of moonlight. And then there are the skeptics, Marguerite among them, who wrote in the margin, likely nonsense. But oddly charming nonsense. Historians still argue whether nighttime whistling was ever a widely accepted practice or simply a superstition circulated by early insomniacs with strong lungs and stronger imaginations. Your partner enters the room mid-whistle. Do I want to know? They ask, holding a plate of toast and suspiciously runny marmalade. Summoning fortune, you reply, trying not to sound too wizard-adjacent. I summoned a soggy breakfast. You exchange smiles, then both gaze toward the window, half expecting a mysterious visitor, or perhaps an almond pastry, to appear in response to your musical gamble. Nothing arrives. Yet. Later that day, curiosity gets the better of you both, and you decide to investigate the almond milk kiss ceremony, another dreamy ritual Marguerite filed under for lovers, lightweights, and the occasionally sentimental. It's a simple but oddly sweet tradition. Just before bed, each person drinks a small cup of warmed almond milk, preferably infused with a single clove and a hint of honey, and kisses the other's forehead. Supposedly, this creates a bond in dream space, leading to intertwined dreams and a feeling of being watched over gently by the moon herself. Skeptical but intrigued, you prepare the drink. The kitchen fills with the scent of almonds and spice. Steam curls lazily upward, catching the golden light like a shy ghost. You pour 2 cups, hand one to your partner, and sit cross-legged on the rug like a pair of overly sentimental druids. You sip. The warmth spreads through your chest, soft and nostalgic. Like a memory that hasn't happened yet. You take turns kissing each other's foreheads, laughing when your partner forgets to put their cup down first and nearly anoints you with honeyed milk. The room smells faintly of dessert and contentment. Sleep comes quickly. You dream of a garden. Not the kind with tidy hedgerows and signs that say keep off the parsley, but a wild, luminous garden lit entirely by fireflies. You walk barefoot, the ground soft with moss and something like velvet. Your partner is there, sitting beneath a tree with leaves shaped like hearts. You don't speak. You don't need to. You sit beside them and listen to the wind whisper lullabies in a language made of almond blossoms. You both wake at once, stretching in unison like synchronized cats. The air smells faintly of clove and contentment. That worked, you murmur. I know, they reply, already scribbling notes into the dream ledger. Almond kiss equals effective. Dream setting garden. Emotional tone, buttery. You add a doodle of a moon sipping tea. Later that morning, while dusting the edge of a windowsill that no one ever quite remembers exists, you stumble upon a tiny scrap of paper. It's faded and brittle, as if left behind by a very shy wizard. You unfold it carefully. The handwriting is delicate and surprisingly modern. In dreams where bread floats and geese speak French, do not underestimate the mirror. No signature. No date. Just that. You show it to your partner. They blink slowly. Maybe we shouldn't have covered the mirror after all? You both eye the linen-draped frame warily. That night you try something new. The counting sheep with noble titles exercise. You've read about it in a long-forgotten corner of the ledger, tucked behind an index card labeled assorted soothing oddities. Apparently, in certain Renaissance courts, especially those with surplus time and wool, people believed counting ordinary sheep was too dull to yield truly peaceful sleep. Instead, they counted noble sheep. Aristosheep, if you will. The process was simple. Assign each sheep a title and imagine backstory as you count. You begin. 1. Count Wilgar, recently returned from a duel over raspberry preserves. 2. Lady Fluffington, whose embroidery scandal rocked the duchy. 3. Sir Beauregard of the Eastern Hillocks, whose topiary sheep maze caused 2 minor wars and a wedding. By 14. Archbishop Eunice, you're giggling quietly into your pillow. Your partner mumbles, make sure they pay their wool tax. And with that, you drift into sleep, surrounded by a court of sheep with impeccable lineage and terrible judgment. In the dream, you are seated at a banquet. The table is long, stretching across clouds. Your noble sheep guests raise goblets of oat cider and bleat toasts in your honor. A harp plays. A single goose serves as the sommelier, describing the bouquet of hay-based wine with faint contempt. You dance with a ram named Baron Snuffle. He tells you secrets you forget immediately. You wake with a sense of calm so profound it almost makes up for the faint smell of hay in your hair. Your partner is already writing. Sheep count, noble edition. Most effective to date. Possible side effect, hay breath. You smile. The rituals have become more than superstition. Their language, play, and affection all woven together. Tonight you decide you'll revisit the mirror, but this time uncovered. Gently. With respect. And perhaps a sheep-shaped sticker placed in the top corner for protection. Because truly, how dangerous can a mirror be if it's watched over by Duchess Fluffington herself? You uncover the mirror. Slowly. Reverently. As if peeling back the curtain on a particularly dramatic opera, except instead of sopranos and scandal, you're facing your own half-asleep reflection and a faint glimmer of candle wax on your nose. The mirror seems neutral. Not ominous, not friendly, just quietly judging your choice of pajama colors. You offer it a polite nod. Behind you, your partner hums the final few notes of the sheep-counting anthem from the night before, which now has its own chorus and questionable harmonies. You place the lemon-embroidered pillowcase aside and decide it's time to investigate a lesser-known custom, one involving melodies and mischief, whistling before sleep, for luck or folly? It's the only superstition in Aunt Marguerite's dream ledger that's been underlined, crossed out, and then underlined again, as if even she wasn't quite sure whether to believe in it or burn it. Apparently, in pockets of Renaissance Europe, whistling a tune before bed could do any number of things: summon luck, banish regret, attract romantic dreams, or, as one footnote ominously suggests, invite an overly amorous spirit named Thibaut. Historians still argue whether the ritual was ever genuinely practiced, or simply the result of one bard's overenthusiastic attempt to serenade a duchess and invent a new genre of apology. You decide to try it anyway. You settle in bed, take a deep breath, and whistle a gentle, meandering tune, somewhere between a lullaby and a sea shanty performed by a choir of bashful ghosts. Your partner joins in, harmonizing just a little too confidently. The mirror remains still. The spoon gives no comment. Satisfied, you lean back against the pillow and whisper, "No T-bows tonight, please." Sleep arrives in soft, orchestral waves. In the dream, you're strolling down a cobbled path lined with lanterns that bob in time with the music only you can hear. Each step you take whistles a different note. You realize you're composing your own lullaby with your feet. You pass a house with a glowing window. Inside, someone dances, spinning slowly with a spoon clutched to their chest like a sacred object. You smile. In a grove nearby, a goose hums harmony. You wake up humming the final bar. That was oddly melodic, your partner says over morning tea, eyes still half-lidded with dream residue. You both agree that whistling might not be dangerous after all, though just to be sure, you leave a sprig of rosemary on the windowsill. Because why not? The air is thick with the sweet potential of another ritual, the almond milk kiss ceremony, which you revisit, this time adding a pinch of nutmeg, because your partner read somewhere, in a deeply unverified margin note, that it amplifies intimacy while warding off unwanted dream guests. You prepare the warm almond milk with quiet focus, stirring in tiny figure eights as instructed by the parchment tucked inside the ledger's back flap. This time, you don't just kiss each other's foreheads. You whisper a line of a poem you make up on the spot. Your partner responds with a limerick that defies both rhythm and grammar, but you declare it canon anyway. Together you toast to dreamscapes and spoon packs. Then sleep, with smiles and slightly milky breath. The dreamscape is new. You're in a gondola, adrift across a lake of almond milk. Lanterns float beside you, each one glowing with a familiar face, friends, family, even that one baker who once gave you too many biscuits and changed your week. Your partner sits beside you, dipping a toe into the lake and drawing constellations in the ripples. Ahead, a castle rises from the mist. Its banners bear spoons. Its guards are noble sheep. Its queen, flawless and terrifying, wears a nightcap embroidered with constellations and utters only one phrase, "You may enter if your dreams are kind." You are, apparently, admitted with honors. You wake with a crick in your neck and a heart full of fluff. There's almond milk still clinging to the sides of your cup on the nightstand, and a single sheep sticker stuck to your elbow. You blame Duchess Fluffington. Later that day, after breakfast and a spirited debate about whether pear jam counts as a love charm, it doesn't, but it might if paired with poetry, you rediscover a passage in Marguerite's ledger. When in doubt, end the evening with something warm on the lips. A kiss. A song. A memory you're not quite sure belongs to you. You decide it's time to try a newer tradition, counting sheep with noble titles, but with a twist. Tonight, they each get a backstory. You begin. 1. Duke Benedict, accused of laundering linen instead of gold. Acquitted, but only just. 2. Dame Eunice, whose bedtime speeches moved sheep and shepherds alike to quiet tears. 3. Lord Muddensworth the Mild, who once attempted to outlaw snoring in all known pastures. Your partner, barely suppressing a giggle, adds. 4. Countess Lamella, banned from the court for excessive cardigan donations. By 15. Archbishop Baroque, patron saint of dream musicians, you're both dissolved into pillow laughter. You eventually fall asleep mid-count, somewhere around a sheep who runs a bakery and moonlights as a bard. In the dream, you're seated at a long table in a meadow under starlight. The noble sheep are hosting a literary salon. You sip mint tea served by a hedgehog in spectacles. Your dream self stands and delivers a short speech titled The Socio-Emotional Implications of Wool-Based Metaphors. It receives a standing ovation. You wake up with the urge to write a haiku. You do. Counting sheep again. Titled Tasseled Charming Hooves. Nobility naps. You pin it to the mirror. The mirror, oddly enough, fogs slightly, as if sighing in appreciation. Your partner reads it, nods, and adds, definitely counts as prophecy light. That night, you both agree to return to simpler rituals, warm socks, lavender sachets, and a bedtime playlist of faint rain and soft harp music. But just before turning off the light, you whistle a single note. It's answered by the clink of the spoon. which may or may not mean anything. Still, you smile and sleep. The spoon clinks again the next night. Just once. It's gentle, almost polite. Like a soft ahem from a courteous spectre who doesn't wish to intrude, but would appreciate a little attention. You pause, one sock halfway on, your hand frozen mid-reach for the dream ledger. The spoon sits on the windowsill now, moved there after your partner accused it of eavesdropping on bedtime gossip. It has no right to look smug. And yet, I think it wants a promotion, you murmur. From utensil to oracle? Your partner replies, eyes narrowed. Perhaps to spoon of emotional forecasting. They nod solemnly. We could keep it next to the barometer. And so the spoon is ceremoniously given a tiny ribbon, lavender, naturally, and moved beside the dream ledger. It doesn't clink again that night, but you both sleep easier knowing it's properly acknowledged. Which is good, because tonight's ritual is an unusual one, the almond milk kiss ceremony, but with variations. According to the addendum notes in Marguerite's ledger, almond milk could be infused with various herbs to steer the direction of dreams. Nutmeg for closeness, rosemary for vividness, thyme for memory recall, and, somewhat alarmingly, dill to inspire mildly prophetic conversations in dreams with animals. You choose rosemary. Your partner picks dill. You both sip, clink cups, and give each other a ceremonial forehead kiss, the kind that implies devotion, mischief, and the faint hope that tonight's dreams will contain a goose in a top hat. The room dims. The curtains sway slightly. You drift into sleep. Your dream begins with a goat playing a lute. It's oddly moving. You're in a moonlit clearing where chairs have been set up for an audience of dreaming animals. The goat finishes its performance, bows, and is replaced by a marmot reciting a soliloquy about parsley. Then a goose appears. Archbishop Beakerton, of course. He approaches you, offering a scroll tied with red ribbon. You unroll it. Inside are doodles of sheep in cravats and a short poem. If rosemary leads to memory's door, and dill lets animals speak galore, then kiss the spoon and dream once more of silken socks and corridor lore. You wake with the overwhelming feeling that you've just received a message from the Ministry of Somnolent Affairs. Your partner stirs. I had a dream I was debating morality with a shrew in a cravat. You nod. I think we may have brewed something too strong. The spoon, now beside the barometer, leans ever so slightly to the left. You make a note in the ledger, dill plus rosemary equals multilingual animal dreams. Possibly needs moderation. To restore balance, you decide to revisit one of the oldest rituals in the book, the Silent Spoon Pact, but this time, upgraded. You each take a spoon and hold it solemnly. A candle flickers. You declare, henceforth, this spoon shall represent our willingness to dream weird dreams, forgive kitchen mishaps, and refrain from hogging the blankets. Your partner repeats the vow, then adds, and to accept without question the occasional presence of metaphysical poultry. You tap the spoons together. Clink. The pact is sealed. You place the spoons beneath your pillows, wrapped in silk napkins scented faintly with lemon balm. The dream is peaceful. You're back in the almond lake, drifting in your gondola. But this time, Archbishop Beakerton is rowing. He hums a lullaby that sounds suspiciously like the tune you whistled last week. You pass a floating library. A sheep waves from the doorway, holding a sign that says, "Return your dream books." You reach into your pocket and pull out a spoon. The sheep nods in approval. You wake with one arm tangled in a blanket and the sense that you've just been knighted in your sleep. The spoon under your pillow is warm. Breakfast is quiet and cozy, cinnamon porridge and a shared pear. Your partner doodles in the margin of the dream ledger. Spoon dreams equals gentle, whimsical, mild undertones of prophecy. Would recommend. That evening, you explore a new ritual listed in Marguerite's ledger under Curiosities of Domestic Sorcery. The mirror facing the footboard rule, revisited with compliments. It seems there was once a belief that mirrors could be trained to show kinder reflections, both literal and emotional, if spoken to gently before bed. The process is simple. Say 3 nice things to your reflection. One about your day, one about your appearance, and one about your dreams. You take turns. I made someone smile today. My hair is chaotic but charismatic. I dream of a picnic with a duck and lace gloves. Your partner. I remember to water the basil. My nose is statistically pleasing. I dream of finishing a sentence mid-dream without interruption from barnyard debates. You both bow to the mirror. It does not reply. But its surface seems smoother, more benevolent. You sleep that night with a curious sense of reassurance, like being tucked in by moonlight itself. Your dream takes place in a ballroom made entirely of reflections. You see yourself dancing, not perfectly, but joyfully. Every step is echoed in a dozen mirrors, each showing a version of you that feels true in a different way. Your partner twirls by, followed by Archbishop Beakerton wearing a sash that reads, Best Dancer, Foul Category. You wake refreshed. You glance at the mirror. It fogs briefly in one corner, as if suppressing a chuckle. The spoon leans a little more to the left. You shrug and add a sticker of a grinning sheep to its handle. And then comes a night when you forget the rituals. No almond milk, no sheep names, no mirror affirmations. You simply crawl into bed, tired and wordless. And sleep finds you anyway. The dream is a soft fog. A warm room. A familiar tune hummed by someone you love. You don't need a ceremony to find peace. But you're grateful for the ones that brought you here. You wake to quiet rain. And a spoon that, for once, remains still. You've decided it's time to go fully noble. You've tried sheep with titles. You've performed spoon-based diplomacy. You've nearly summoned a goose archbishop in your dreams. But tonight you set your sights on something truly distinguished, counting sheep with noble titles, formal banquet edition. According to a tattered page tucked near the back of Marguerite's dream ledger, wedged suspiciously behind a drawing of a turnip in a tuxedo, some Renaissance dreamers believed that sheep not only bore aristocratic titles, but also gathered once a year for a moonlit banquet in the subconscious. The trick, it said, was to mentally attend the banquet while drifting to sleep. Each sheep must be named, seated, and described in formal banquet terms. You decide to commit. Your partner fetches parchment. You light a lavender candle. Name and title? You begin, quill poised. Baron Crumplehooves of Downeyshire, your partner replies, without hesitation. Likes squash soup, dislikes existential dread. You scribble dutifully. 1. Baron Crumplehooves seated beside a hedgehog poet named Sir Snuffleup. 2. Countess Ladybleed of the Silver Fold, wears lace ruffles and gossips and sonnets. 3. Sir Tufton of Bobbyshire, brings his own croutons. And so it goes. By the time you reach 17, Duchess Lambivine, who speaks only in metaphors and once fainted at the sight of mismatched table linens, you are already blinking more slowly. The candle sputters, the room smells faintly of honey, and your bed calls like a velvet throne. You climb beneath the covers and imagine your banquet seat, golden cushion, embroidered napkin, perhaps a dream salad prepared by a sentient carrot chef. Your partner whispers, "Don't forget to address the wooled ambassador with proper titles." You promise to curtsy, then let sleep gently whisk you to the gathering. The dream is vivid. A long, gleaming table stretches through a starlit pasture. Each noble sheep sits upright, dressed impeccably, ruffled cuffs, monocles, a few in tiaras slightly askew. You take your seat. The air smells of thyme and baked root vegetables. Lady Bleat recites a toast in rhyming couplets. Sir Tufton passes you a bread roll shaped like a lute. The hedgehog poet stands to share his latest epic, Ode to a Blanket Folded Just Right. The goose sommelier offers Dream Dew 93, a sparkling beverage from the orchard of subconscious longings. You raise your glass. To dreams. To sheep. To stories whispered on the edge of sleep. You wake with a grin and a faint feeling that you may still be wearing a metaphorical velvet cloak. Your partner is already writing. Formal sheep banquet equals highly effective. Notes of parsnip. Sleep quality, luxurious. The spoon rests serenely. The barometer tilts toward deep slumber achieved. The mirror, half covered in lace, reflects a room brimming with the energy of imagined elegance. Later that day, While folding laundry with precisely 40% more care than usual, you stumble across an old nightcap. It's striped, with a pom-pom. Neither of you recognizes it. You hold it aloft like a forgotten relic from a far-off land. Is this yours? No, but it's clearly enchanted, your partner says. Look at that stitching. You examine the inside. A faintly stitched phrase reveals itself, tied in a hopeful knot. And so begins your next adventure, the secret code of nightcaps. As the legend goes, according to another smudged note in Marguerite's ledger, nightcaps were not merely decorative. Their knots, patterns, and even the way they were folded could communicate unspoken bedtime desires, moods, and requests. You tie your cap with a hopeful knot, one loop, a twist, and a small tuck. Your partner tries a restful curl, said to induce untroubled sleep and dreams about lemon pastries. The ritual becomes a quiet performance. Each evening, you present your nightcap like a letter to be read, nodding it carefully while humming softly. Some nights you choose a mirthful fold. Other times, a seeking loop. Your partner tries a mystery tuck, which turns out to be too mysterious. Either of you remembers how it was tied. The results are mixed but delightful. One dream takes place entirely in a bathhouse run by squirrels in velvet robes. Another unfolds inside a massive library where books whisper gossip and mirrors blink politely. You wake up half expecting a squirrel to offer you a towel. One evening, during the nightly nodding, your partner hesitates. I think I tied mine in a conflicted double swoop. That's for decision-making dreams. You nod sagely. Then I'll match it with a clarity twirl. We'll meet in the middle. You sleep facing opposite directions, back to back, arms just touching, a tangle of knotted hopes and bundled thoughts. The dream that night is simple. Just the two of you. Walking a shoreline made of pages. Every wave delivers a sentence. Every breeze smells like almond and ink. You wake rested. No theatrics, no barnyard bards. Just peace. You leave your caps untied the next night. Just to see. And still, the dreams come. Because as Marguerite once wrote, in one of her softer entries, rituals are rafts. But the current knows the way. Later that week, you find a peculiar footnote labeled, the bedspread of 7 colors. Supposedly, it was tradition in certain Renaissance towns to weave bedspreads from 7 symbolic hues, each representing a dream quality: red for passion, blue for peace, gold for memory, green for whimsy, silver for protection, violet for intuition, and white for blank possibility. No one knows whether this tradition actually existed or was just a poetic theory written by an overworked tailor with lofty bedtime ambitions. Historians still argue whether the symbolic threads were ever dyed consistently or merely chosen by candlelight and wishful thinking. But you're immediately smitten with the idea. You can't find a literal 7-color quilt, so you improvise. A patchwork of scarves, shawls, and blankets layered like the rings of a sleep tree. As you lay beneath your improvised rainbow, you feel a curious completeness. Each color wrapping you in a different emotion. A different memory. You sleep that night beneath 7 hues and dream in gradients. The sky in the dream is not one shade. It's every shade. The stars blink in colored rhythms. You lie in a field of memory flowers, each one pulsing with a light that feels specific, familiar. You pluck a violet bloom. It hums like a lullaby you almost remember. Your partner joins you, cradling a bouquet of silver and green. You both lie back. The stars wink. The world tilts toward sleep. You wake with the sun in your eyes and 7 scarves tangled around your legs. The spoon is still. The mirror gleams kindly. And the nightcap, for once, has untied itself in a graceful little spiral. You add a final line to the ledger for the night. 7 colors equals 7 kinds of peace. May require untangling in the morning. It's a chilly night, and you pull the 7-color blanket a little tighter around your shoulders. You've made a small ceremony out of this now, adjusting the layers like you're tuning the mood of a stringed instrument. The green scarf tucked near your feet tonight means whimsy dreams, again. You're hoping for another floating castle, maybe with fewer bureaucratic raccoons and more velvet chairs. But tonight you're adding something new to the mix. A small, golden bell. You found it in a box marked seasonal garlic accessories, tucked deep in the back of the wardrobe. Why it was with garlic, no one knows. But the bell has a pleasant weight, and when rung, gives off a single, shimmering note like a whisper from a polite dinner guest who doesn't want to interrupt. Marguerite's dream ledger has exactly one mention of it. Ring once before bed to ward off tangled dreams and overcomplicated metaphors. A noble goal. You place it on the nightstand, right beside the now ribboned spoon and a dried sprig of rosemary. The nightstand is starting to look like a witch's curated Etsy shelf, and you're not mad about it. The ritual is clear. Ring once, think of a single word, then let it fade into sleep. Your partner chooses honey. You choose library. The bell rings, and the sound melts into the soft, fuzzy hush of the room. Sleep doesn't arrive all at once. It rolls in, like fog over cobblestones. You feel it first in your fingertips, then behind your eyes, then in your breath, long, slow, and unhurried. The dream begins at a crossroads. There's no map, but you're not worried. The path to your left is lined with glowing jars. The path to your right smells faintly of cinnamon. You walk straight ahead, naturally, into a hedge maze made of books. Inside, you find a goose in spectacles running a lending counter. No late fees, it says, honking softly. Just don't dream in dog ear. You nod solemnly and accept a volume titled The Art of Folding Memory into Teacups. It smells like honey. You find your partner reading under a lamplight that glows lavender. They've checked out symphonies for the spoon devoted. You sit side by side, reading by osmosis, because that's how dream books work. When the maze begins to dissolve, the goose bows and whispers, "Next time, try the cinnamon trail." You promise. Morning arrives like a particularly well-behaved sunrise. Soft light, warmer than usual. You both stretch in silence, blinking at the dream residues still clinging to the corners of your mind. "I dreamed I was a librarian for bees," your partner murmurs. "They were very punctual." You grin. "I borrowed a cookbook written entirely in spoon calligraphy." You check the bell. It glows faintly gold. 10 out of 10, you declare. Later that day, you make a pot of herbal tea, drop in a clove for mystery, and pull out the dream ledger. There's a page you've somehow missed before, the pillow pledge. It's simple. Before bed, you whisper a promise to your pillow, something kind, honest, or hopeful. In return, the pillow is expected to cradle your thoughts with gentleness and keep the worst dreams tucked neatly in its stuffing. You like the idea? It's absurd. And completely perfect. So that night, before crawling into bed, you lean in close and whisper, "I promise to be patient with the parts of me that don't make sense yet." Your partner kisses their pillow and says, "I promise to keep learning how to rest, even when there's laundry waiting." The room goes still. The air is thick with calm. No need for dramatics. No need for garlic stocking theatrics or embroidered bed scrolls tonight. Just a promise. And sleep. The dream is a quiet one. You sit in a garden, wearing pajamas made of starlight. Bees hum lullabies in the background. Someone, you suspect it's a dream version of Marguerite, hands you a pillow. It's warm. It smells like fresh linen and orange peel. You whisper your promise into it again. It purrs softly in response. The sky turns a deeper blue. You drift. You wake with your cheek still resting on the pillow, the promise echoing faintly like a kind sentence you're still trying to finish. There's a clarity to the morning. You yawn, you stretch, and you don't immediately reach for your to-do list. Instead, you reach for the spoon. Just to say hello? It stays silent, but somehow approving. Over breakfast, your partner suggests you write a new page in the dream ledger. Something personal. So you do. Our Rituals, you title it. You list them all: almond milk variations, the spoon pact, noble sheep naming, mirror affirmations, 7-color blankets, bell chimes, nightcap knots, and the pillow pledge. You don't call it nonsense. You call it tradition. That night you choose a simpler path. You read a story aloud, a slow tale about a baker who accidentally invents a dream yeast that makes people float 6 inches off their mattresses. You both laugh at the ending, and thus the village floated gently into bedtime, except for Herbert, who was too full of crumpets. You close the book, set down your tea, and glance at your partner. Pillow promises? They nod. You whisper, I promise to be silly when needed. They reply, I promise to never mock Dream Goose clergy again. You lean back. Breathe. Sleep arrives not as a command, but as an invitation. And you accept. The dream is soft. You and your partner walk a trail lit by floating spoons, each glowing like a miniature lantern. In the distance, a castle stitched from pajamas waves you forward. As you reach the gates, a sheep noble bows and says, You've been expected. Inside, a pillow waits. It hums a lullaby made from every kindness you've whispered into it. You curl up inside the dream. You float. You are safe. You wake later than usual. There's no alarm, no rooster, dreamy or otherwise, and no clattering spoon today. Just the soft weight of blankets layered like pastries and the faintest scent of lavender still clinging to the room like a sigh. You turn your head and find your partner already awake, staring contemplatively at the ceiling. Dream? You ask. They nod slowly. I was a pastry chef, but for pillows. You blink. Like stuffing pastries? No, like baking pillows. Each with a filling made of moods. One had the texture of relief. Another was filled with the concept of Wednesday. You nod, understanding far more than you probably should. You sit up and look around your room, the now slightly whimsical, softly spellbound, subtly enchanted room. The spoon is back on the windowsill, draped in the lace napkin. The barometer points to mildly introspective. A tiny sheep drawing is stuck to the mirror with washi tape. 7 scarves, 3 of them folded with heroic irregularity, spill off the bed. Your life has become a tapestry of gentle bedtime rituals and dream-adjacent tomfoolery. And frankly, you're delighted. You stand, stretch, and make your way to the dream ledger, flipping slowly to the back where a new blank page waits. Tonight will be the last entry for a while, not because you're giving up the rituals, but because they've woven themselves into your evenings so thoroughly, they no longer need instruction. Still, you want to finish with something meaningful. And as always, you turn to Marguerite. You flip to one of her earliest pages, the ink faded and smudged, the handwriting loopier and a touch more reckless. It reads, Rituals are not magic spells. They are quiet decisions. Every night you choose tenderness. Every night you choose pause. That's the real enchantment. You smile. You know what to do. That night you don't light any candles. You don't name any sheep. You don't tie your nightcap, chant at the mirror, or brew anything suspiciously frothy. You simply make tea. 2 cups. Yours is lemon balm. Theirs is chamomile. You sit on the edge of the bed, cross-legged and content, and raise your mugs in a toast. To dreams. To silliness. To Marguerite. You drink in silence. Then you both crawl under the covers. The spoon doesn't clink. The bell doesn't ring. Even the mirror is quiet. But the air is soft, and the bedspread feels like a friendly cloud. You lean your head against the pillow and whisper one last promise. I promise to keep dreaming, even when it's harder. And you sleep. The dream begins in a library shaped like a spiral seashell. Each book contains a dream you once had, and some you haven't yet. You wander the aisles. You find an entire shelf labeled Tuesday Thoughts About Goose Clergy. Another titled Emotions That Smelled Like Nutmeg. You pull one volume and it opens to reveal a room where everything is made of memories. Chairs formed from favorite conversations, curtains stitched from inside jokes, a teacup that hums the tune your mother once sang when folding towels. You sit in the memory chair and look out the dream window. Outside, it's snowing. Each flake lands softly and becomes a sheep in miniature formalwear, adjusting monocles, carrying scrolls, mumbling about banquet seating. You laugh in your sleep. The pillow catches the sound and tucks it away for later. You don't wake with a start. You rise slowly, like fog lifting from a lake. Sunlight spills gently through the window. The spoon has somehow rotated precisely 23 degrees. You assume it means something and decide to interpret it as excellent dream conductivity. You stretch, blink, and realize you feel better. Not just rested. Soothed. Held. Like your sleep has been curated, nurtured, perhaps even slightly composted by invisible sheep butlers who believe in your potential. Your partner yawns, rolls over, and says, "I dreamed we adopted a cloud." You kiss their forehead and say, "That checks out." You rise and make porridge. Add cinnamon. No need for fanfare. No need for complicated interpretations or frantic journal entries. Just breakfast. And calm. Later, when the day is full of movement and conversations and lists and maybe one misplaced mitten, you'll forget about the mirror and the spoon and the goose with the episcopal hat. But tonight, you'll remember again. And whether or not you tie the cap or light the candle or whisper the vow, the dream will still come. Not always tidy. Not always grand. But real. Yours. Carried on the back of a sheep with a tiny bow tie and a remarkable sense of direction. And now, let the story fade. Let the spoon rest. Let the mirror go dim. The pillow waits, gentle, kind, a quiet companion for the dreams still to arrive. No need to name any sheep tonight. No need to light the rosemary candle, or search for the correct knot. You've made space. That's enough. Close your eyes and imagine a room where everything is soft. No sharp corners, no loud clocks, no unread emails waiting in the corner of your mind. Just warmth. And hush. And the faintest scent of something familiar and kind. Maybe almond, maybe thyme, maybe the memory of laughter that once wrapped around you like a blanket. You are safe here. The day has done enough. You have done enough. There is no quiz at the end of this night. No test. No summary to write. Just breath. And blankets. And dreams waiting patiently behind a curtain made of moonlight. Let the sheep do their little banquet. Let the spoon keep its quiet secrets. Let the pillow cradle everything you didn't get to say. You're allowed to sleep now. You're allowed to float. And when the morning comes, it will knock softly. But for now, sleep.